Arizona won the toss. They will receive. Steven Hauschka will kick off. It's been a rainy weekend in Seattle, but it stopped raining this morning. Dry, not expected to see any precipitation. That's David Johnson, good-looking rookie out of northern Iowa, ready to run it back. Carson Palmer, who was hurt a good part of last season, healthy and playing extremely well, and he's going to get the ball at the 20-yard line after Johnson takes a knee. And let's take a look at the Cardinals starters.
Carson Palmer, USC.
Chris Johnson, East Carolina.
Larry Fitzgerald, University of Pittsburgh.
Michael Floyd, Notre Dame.
Jermaine Gresham, Oklahoma.
Darren Fells, UC Irvine.
Jared Valdir, Hillsdale College.
Mike Upati, Idaho.
Lyle Senline, Texas.
Jonathan Cooper, North Carolina. Bobby Massey, Ole Miss.
Potent offense, third in yardage in the league. This team has already scored 32 touchdowns this season. That's 4 a game, and that's as many as they scored all of last year. That's Larry Fitzgerald having a great year. The motion man, he takes it and tries to slip back the other side, and Palmer lays a block, but Fitzgerald is taken down at the 20-yard line. Carson Palmer blocking Bobby Wagner out of the play, but there's no gain. So Palmer, an MVP candidate, as we stated at the top, first in yards per pass, second in touchdowns, third in rating. The team record for touchdowns in the season, 30 by Kurt Warner. So Palmer right now on a pace to shatter that. 20 halfway through the year. Second and 10. And here is Chris Johnson. He slides to the outside, skirts a tackle, takes it to the 23. The former Tennessee Titan who spent last year with the New York Jets was released and signed by Arizona in August.
Not very many times do you talk about a wide receiver blocks someone that is going to be such a significant part of this game. Cam Chancellor, the enforcer for the run game for Seattle, and it will be a wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald, who throughout much of the night will have that assignment.
You saw how tight that huddle is. Everybody has to stand real close and read lips. 3rd and 7. The back is Andre Ellington. They send him out. Palmer avoids a sack and throws a duck that's incomplete. Bruce Irvin came in from his outside linebacker spot. So Arizona begins with a 3 and out.
And he also beat the very best that Arizona has, Jared Valdir, the left tackle. And he has to be able to hold up right here because they're going to have to help these other offensive linemen. But when you get in those 3rd down and long situations, you better buck up, Carson Palmer, because the big guys are coming.
Drew Butler is the Arizona punter, and Tyler Lockett having a terrific rookie season. Great run back man. They also use him a lot at wide receiver. And the rookie from Kansas State makes a fair catch at the 33-yard line. 44-yard boot. Let's take a look at the Seattle offense.
Russell Wilson from a whole pack of Badgers.
Marshawn Lynch, Oakland Ice City, California.
Will Tukuafu,
Oregon. Doug Baldwin, Stanford.
Jermaine Kearse, Washington.
Jimmy Graham, the U.
Russell Okung, Oklahoma State.
Justin Britt, LHS, MIZ.
Patrick Lewis, Texas A&M.
J.R. Sweezy, NC State.
Garrett Gilliam, Penn State.
Lewis, the center, makes only his 2nd start of the season. Drew Nowak has started the 7 other games. And Wilson on 1st down, sliding around, moving forward, throws it up to the 39-yard line, complete there to Tyler Lockett for a gain of 6 yards. Russell Wilson came in 2012 3rd-round draft choice, 24-3 in his career at home. That's regular season. You can add 4 more playoff wins. You can add a Super Bowl win on a neutral site and a Super Bowl loss on a neutral site as well last year. Seattle trying to become the first team to go to 3 straight Super Bowls since the Bills of the early 90s. Lynch is the tailback. Marshawn missed practice on Friday with an abdominal issue. He stays in the block. Wilson going deep downfield and incomplete. Intended for Chris Matthews, who had a tremendous day at the Super Bowl, covered by Peterson. Let's take a look at the Cards defense.
Frosty Rucker, USC.
Rodney Gunter, Delaware State.
Calais Campbell, the U.
Lamar Woodley, Michigan.
Kevin Minner,
LSU.
Deion Buchanan, Washington State.
Alex Okafor, Texas.
Patrick Peterson, LSU.
Rashad Johnson, Alabama.
Tyrann Mathieu, LSU.
Gerard Powers, Auburn.
Cardinal defense, 13 interceptions this season. 3 of them run back for touchdowns. On 3rd and 4, Wilson sprints to the outside, throws, and that's complete for a first down. Jimmy Graham, the big offseason acquisition, the longtime New Orleans tight end, came over in a trade that sent Max Unger, the center, to New Orleans.
And everyone's sort of been waiting for the breakout. Jimmy Graham, a couple of touchdowns early in the year. And since then, especially down in the red zone, just not the kind of factor that everyone figured he might be. But on the first big 3rd down, he gets the football.
Still leads the team in receptions, but no big bang yet. 39 catches for him. Marshawn Lynch to the outside. Our first flag of the game comes in. Clete Blakeman is tonight's referee. We'll hear from him about 3 minutes into the game.
Personal foul, grabbing the face mask. Offense, number 79, 15-yard penalty, replay, first down.
And that would be the right tackle, Gary Gilliam. Pete Carroll looking up at the board to see if he can spot whatever the infraction was.
The right tackle right here. He must have a face mask around his neck. I didn't say anything.
Drop down a little bit. So that takes him back to a 1st and 25 from their own 28-yard line. Lynch flanks Wilson. And he fires over the middle. Does Russell out to the 37-yard line. That's caught by Doug Baldwin. Pete Carroll, the Seattle coach, 2 national championships in his tenure at USC, 1 Super Bowl win here. Coached the New York Jets all the way back in 1994 for 1 season, and then was the Patriot coach in between Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick in the late 90s.
Carson Palmer's coach at USC.
Right. In his junior and senior years, as Marshawn Lynch takes the ball out to the 41. Lynch battling some hamstring issues this year, an abdominal issue the other day. Out of practice on Friday. He did not come out and practice with the team, so listed on the questionable category on the injury report, but in play tonight. That they have been using, though, Thomas Rawls, a good-looking undrafted rookie, quite a bit this season, and Fred Jackson is the 3rd down back. 3rd and 12. Four-man rush. Wilson, as he does so effectively so often, out of the pocket, but that time overthrows Doug Baldwin. And Seattle will have to punt.
And as we have seen a little too often this year from Russell Wilson, too, that's a missed easy throw for a first down. No one scrambles around and makes plays better than Russell Wilson does, but occasionally we've seen balls get away from him in key situations. Baldwin was wide open there.
Patrick Peterson back to receive, standing at the 15-yard line. John Ryan to do the punting for Seattle. And Peterson is met immediately as he hauls it in at the 18-yard line. And Stephen Terrell, number 23, is right there for the tackle. From the 19-yard line, Chris Johnson is the running back. He gets it, and Johnson, who had a 2,000-yard season as a Titan back in 2009, gets stood up at the 25-yard line. Bruce Arians, longtime assistant in the league, was in Pittsburgh, won a Super Bowl with them, Super Bowl 43. Then he went to Indianapolis. It looked like he might even retire, but Chuck Pagano got the job. Cole Bruce said, "Come on, be my offensive coordinator." Chuck got sick early in the season. Arians took over the team, won Coach of the Year. That led to an interview in Arizona. And now the man they affectionately call BA in his 3rd year as the Arizona coach. Play action by Palmer. Slides to his right, then throws. Caught. Michael Floyd missed all the preseason. after hand surgery, makes the catch, first down.
And this is really what the Cardinals are going to have to do. Go to some of this play action. They have a successful run on first down with Chris Johnson. Come back on second down. Now the play action is effective. You get those linebackers sucked up a little bit. Work Michael Floyd underneath.
Gain of 10. Cardinals have great receivers. Fitzgerald. They've got Floyd. They have John Brown. Jerron Brown as well. And from the 35 now, Palmer fires, and that's caught by Larry Fitzgerald. Up to the 46-yard line goes the man in his 12th season, all with the Cardinals. Last year, of course, without Palmer, he missed 3 games, shoulder injury, and then the final 7 torn ACL. The last 2 games against the Seahawks, neither of them with Palmer, and you can see right there, 23 drives, never got into the end zone. Second time that Palmer's had to recover from a torn ACL. He had to do it when he was a Cincinnati Bengal after the 05 season. And over the left side for a gain of 3 goes Chris Johnson. Second down and 7.
Looked like the left side of the Cardinal offensive line moved a little early. Let's see what we see over here. Maybe not. Just kind of a weird start to that play. It's good to see Chris Johnson back running. I went back last night and just started watching all of his runs. What a year he has had. The patience, a little like Le'Veon Bell, just a veteran guy who's seen it all and seems to be very, very comfortable in this offense.
Second down and 7 from the 50-yard line. And Johnson to the outside. Tough to get around that Seattle defense. They are so fast. Cliff Averill out there. So you run east-west, as they say, sideline to sideline against Seattle. It's tough. And Bruce Arians saying last night, we got to go up the middle a bit more, but not there.
Yeah, this is the stretch play. This is the one where all the offensive line pull out in front of the running back, and then he's supposed to cut it up inside wherever the hole is. But as a general rule against Seattle, if you try to run outside of them, you don't have a lot of success. So I think that is sort of setting the table a little bit, Al. Let's stretch them a little bit, but we're going to work them back inside tonight.
Sooner or later, they go 5 wide here. Fitzgerald split wide to the left. Palmer has to step up, avoids the sack, throws. Fitzgerald makes the catch, and Larry Fitzgerald out of bounds at the 35-yard line. Accepting congratulations along the Arizona sideline. First down.
Really nice job right up front by Jonathan Cooper, the right guard. He ended up being the key guy on this one that's going to allow Carson Palmer to step up under pressure. But it is something to watch this year with Carson Palmer, how much more confident he is. There's Cooper right there, number 61 on your screen. Just how much more confident he looks stepping up in that pocket, not thinking about that knee, bouncing back up in the pocket. It's been fun to watch.
Andre Ellington is the back here, and here goes Ellington. And Ellington takes the ball to the 32. You go back to training camp with Arizona, they had Ellington and they had David Johnson, a rookie, and Bruce Arians figured, well, I'll go with these 2 guys. Ellington will be my key guy, but then he hurt his hamstring, and you don't want to go with a rookie as your ace. And then Johnson became available. He was available anyway, and they looked around along with GM Steve Keim and said, we got to go get that guy.
Pretty good idea.
Ellington stays in on second down and 8 from the 33-yard line. Nice pocket, and then the pass is too high. That one intended for Jermaine Gresham, the tight end. It'll be third down and 8 for the Cards.
Yeah, Jermaine Gresham, a guy that has been coming back, had back surgery in the offseason, and boy, Carson Palmer was really high on him. A guy that just has sort of this dog attitude out there. He is tenacious blocking down the field. Here comes Bennett off the edge here, and Bobby Massey, and then it was Jonathan Cooper who came over, give him a little help, which was a fine idea.
Third down and 8, and the Seahawks are going to take a timeout. 5:42 left in a scoreless opening quarter in Seattle. Third and 8 after the defense took a timeout. And Palmer has to just throw it into the ground. There was a flag before the snap. Clete Blakeman signaled that the play was dead.
And that's a big one because that drives them outside of the traditional field goal range for Chandler Catanzaro.
Offense, number 84. 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
Gresham. Catanzaro's long of his career is 51 yards. See if we can just the tiniest of flinch. And a bigger flinch from KJ Wright jumping up in the air to signal it.
Yeah. More like a twitch, but it cost him 5. It's 3rd and 13. Play clock down to 5. They go 5 wide. And Palmer is going to go for it all. And Fitzgerald with a flag thrown. Incomplete. Flag back upfield. Earl Thomas was covering on the play. That was a 3rd and 13.
Prior to the pass, holding defense, number 35. It's a 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's on Sheed. And a 1st and 10.
See if we can see him here, right here. Different angles, hard to tell sometimes. But that was a biggie, because that turns it into a first down.
At the 33-yard line. You know, coaches study everything. So you look at officiating crews. And the other day, Carroll told us something interesting that came into play there. Chris Johnson to the 30. He said, you know, this officiating crew headed by Clete Blakeman, they've only called 1 defensive pass interference this season. But they've called a ton of defensive holding.
Yeah, so hold them at the point of the ball instead.
Right.
You can tell Arizona's trying to get a little power running game going, and this drive has been significant. So many teams just go 3 and out against Seattle, and yet they've been able to maintain control of it and let their defense rest a bit.
Palmer, good protection that time, and that's going to be a first down. That is Darren Fells, the tight end, and he takes the ball to the 21-yard line. 11th play of the drive coming up.
Boy, across the board there, you just see fine protection. Came with a little bit of a stunt back inside. Valdir picked it up perfectly, and that is what Carson Palmer's been doing. You give that guy time. Almost everybody I talked to from Arizona said if we give Carson Palmer time to throw, if we don't let their 4-man rush get there on us, then we should have a big night.
This drive began back at the Cardinal 19-yard line. And trying to pull his way forward. This is Johnson. They'll wrap him up after a gain of 2 yards. Seattle's defense has not allowed a touchdown in its last 2 games. They beat the 49ers on a Thursday night 20-3, and then they gave up 4 field goals at Dallas 2 weeks ago before the bye and won that game 13-12. And there is the new defensive coordinator, Chris Richard, over for Dan Quinn, now the head coach in Atlanta. Richard, very young, 36 years old. In fact, he was a teammate of Carson Palmer at USC. Palmer told us last night, I knew when I played with him this guy was going to be a coach someday. Play clock at 3. Play clock at 1. And they barely get it off as Palmer slides away and hits Ellington on the run. And Ellington is forced out of bounds at the 6-yard line by KJ Wright.
Well, they worked it all the way down on that one, but it is the second time now that we have seen Carson Palmer. You don't think of mobility in Carson Palmer, but his ability to step up. And really, Andre Ellington, number 38, could be a significant player in this game. Usually, if you're going to have some success, it's with some of those option routes over the middle to a running back, and he is their primary receiving running back out of the backfield.
He also comes into the game averaging 6.7 yards per carry. Chris Johnson in there now. It's 1st and goal. And that pass may have been flicked away. Larry Fitzgerald on a slant. Sherman covering on the play. That's a marquee matchup, 2nd and goal.
Oh, yeah, I asked whether or not they would stay away from Richard Sherman. Of course, we all know what he's been able to do against Arizona. But out here on the outside, best against best. And everyone said, no, we don't shy away from anybody. That's where our reads go. That's where we throw it. We don't care where he is. And so far, Sherman hasn't been chasing Fitzgerald across the field either. He's just been staying on his defensive left side.
14th play of the drive. 2nd down and goal. And it's caught on the run and then dropped out of bounds. It's incomplete. Chris Johnson, the receiver, but never had control. He was covered by the linebacker, Bruce Irvin. Crowd signals its pleasure with that play with a Bruce chant, and it's 3rd down and goal.
Yeah, Bruce Irvin's not really known for his coverage ability, and I think Bruce Arians there said, okay, you're going to play Irvin out there as a cover guy. We're going after him, but he played that one perfectly.
3rd and goal. They've had the ball for more than 7.5 minutes. Empty again. Palmer fires into the end zone, and it is in the end zone. Looked like Earl Thomas comes away with the ball. Earl Thomas with the pick. Earl Thomas. Well, what does that remind you of?
A little bit, doesn't it? It's hard not to think of Malcolm Butler in that situation. It's going to come right through. He saw Floyd coming through and picked it off.
Then he tried to get back into the end zone. His momentum had carried him in there. So Thomas plays the role of Butler. And there's a little different than the reaction we saw last February 1st in Glendale, Arizona.
And Carson saying that was my fault.
The ruling on the field is that the pass was intercepted in the end zone. The defender progressed the ball out to the 1-yard line, then was hit back in the end zone. So therefore, it's Seattle's ball, 1st and 10 from the 1-yard line.
That was very close.
Very.
Very close.
But he was outside, then went back in. But they get the ball and stymie the drive. Play under review as are all turnovers, and we think it's going to come out to the 20-yard line. Thomas never got the ball totally out of the end zone. Got it above the goal line. He had to get it totally out, and that's going to be a break for Seattle here.
After review of the play, the defender was down by contact with the ball positioned in the end zone. Thereby, a 4-by rule, is it a touchback? It'll be Seattle's ball, 1st and 10.
You know, just a couple of things here. First of all, Michael Floyd hit him, so as soon as he's down, he's down. Now watch exactly where he was. There's the interception. Contact is there. And then you'll see, remember, the ball would have to come completely outside the playing field side of the end line. And there's the elbow down and the ball there. Remember, it would have to be that edge of the line.
Right.
All the way out, the complete ball all the way out. Good overturn.
Yeah, the exact opposite if you're on offense going into the end zone is Lynch with a flag down to the 25. If you're going into the end zone, all you have to do is get the ball above the goal line, any part of it, and you're in. That's the end zone. But trying to come out, you got to get the whole ball out past the goal line. So a break there and a flag here.
What a great 5-yard run.
Offense, number 68. 10-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
Justin Britt. That was only the 4th interception of the season for the Seahawks.
Just watch what Marshawn Lynch can do with the football. I mean, it's lateral, it's sideways. It makes somebody else. I mean, guys' knees buckle. That's Dayon Buchanan. He's a safety that plays inside linebacker. His knees buckled when Marshawn Lynch, without any sort of forward progress at all, gave him that little shimmy. Some kind of football player Marshawn Lynch is.
29 years old. 1st down and 20. And Wilson in the end zone, and Wilson's going to dump it.
Did it get back to the line of scrimmage?
Did he get back? Exactly right. And the Cardinals are screaming it should be intentional grounding, which would be a safety. Frosty Rucker was the guy who pressured him, and now they're going to talk about this. Because Arians wants to see a safety.
Out of the pocket, threw the ball to or beyond the line of scrimmage. Therefore, it's an incomplete pass. Second down.
Well, the line of scrimmage, it was to the line of scrimmage, but considerably short of it. The line of scrimmage is the 10-yard line. He goes back into the end zone. He's outside the tackle box.
No question. You're allowed to throw it away.
Right.
But it is a good 3 yards short of the line of scrimmage. That to me, those are the kind of rules that I hate in the NFL. 2 are about the line of scrimmage. Can it not just be you got to get it to the line of scrimmage? I mean, sometimes they make them so hard. I don't know why.
Do the suburbs count?
LA game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
Well, it's second down. That's going to make it second down and 25.
Well, and this is the kind of year it's been offensively for Darrell Bevell. You know, they've had key penalties. They have a sack every 8.5 passing plays, which is worst in the league. There have been questions along that offensive line. They've shuffled the center in and out. Drew Nowak has been the center. Patrick Lewis comes in and plays this one. So, you know, they just keep waiting for that game where everything sort of comes together for them, and it just hasn't so far.
Yeah, Russell looked at the bye week as the beginning of the second season. He said, okay, you know, we haven't played that well over the first 8 games. The record says that, 4-4. But most of the Seahawks considering this a new dawn. But tonight, as we stated at the top, a vital game for them to win if they want to have a realistic chance to win the division. Lynch trying to shed tacklers and fights his way out to the 15-yard line. Third down and long.
Well, there just haven't been many people this size with this sort of lateral step ability. You can see the patient almost backed up there, and then Russell Wilson's going to get out in front and throw him a block. But Marshawn Lynch has had 2 of the best runs I've ever seen in my life. Of course, the earthquake run here against New Orleans and all that. But last year when we were in Arizona, that one was almost as good.
3rd and 15. Fred Jackson comes in. The former Buffalo Bill picked up this season. He stays in the block, and Wilson somehow escapes, but not very far. And then the ball is loose at the 20-yard line, and the Cardinals are going to come up with it. Was it a forward pass is the question.
It's one of those little flip forwards that we see out of Russell Wilson all the time.
Incomplete. So he's gotten away with a couple here. In the end zone, he's able to get away without it being grounding, which would have been a safety. And here he flips it forward to avoid the fumble.
Here's a guy, a name you'll recognize, Dwight Freeney. Since he's been picked up about halfway through the season, he's had a major impact. Got around Gary Gilliam there, and then on the outside, Marcus Golden almost got there. Thought he did, not quite.
John Ryan to punt. And Patrick Peterson. This is a low line drive kick, but it's away from Peterson. Has to scoop it up on a hop and takes the ball to about the 45 of Seattle. So we have 55 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Cards with the ball. The game is scoreless. Carson Palmer came to the Cardinals in 2013. Since then, when he's been in the lineup, 22-8 with a 92.9 rating, which is good. Without him, 5-5, and they know what that looked like last year. Can't live with or without you. Well, certainly you can't live without you. I mean, they had a good thing going last year, and then he got hurt, and that was the end of that. They went to the playoffs against Carolina, and their season ended in Charlotte. And that pass is caught by Larry Fitzgerald. He takes it to the 26-yard line. The fountain of youth with this guy, Larry Fitzgerald, 12 years in the league, playing as well as ever, 23-yard game.
But I tell you what's happening here is that Bruce Arians is calling a lot of play action passes on first down, and you can see that the Seahawk defense is just so fired up about this game. They're leaning forward, and their linebackers are coming up, and they're getting easy, wide open guys down the field.
Already 4 grabs for number 11 as the quarter comes to an end here with Chris Johnson taking it to the 25-yard line. So They've run 20 plays to Seattle's 9 in the quarter, but the game is scoreless as we go to the second in Seattle. End of the first, no score. Sunday Night Football from Seattle. Back after these messages.
Waiting all day for Sunday night.
And now we come back into CenturyLink Field where it is second down and 8. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya on Sunday night, and Larry Fitzgerald has just made his 5th catch of the game. That's good for a first down of the 12. Chancellor makes the tackle.
We have seen Richard Sherman trail a specific receiver on occasion this year. Des Bryant a couple of weeks ago. Now with Larry Fitzgerald, their #1 receiver, getting off to this kind of a start, you wonder, is Pete Carroll thinking about an adjustment to bring Sherman in on him and see if they can take away their #1 threat?
Palmer this time out of the pistol. Johnson breaks a tackle, but then he's going to lose more yardage, so he was able to spin away. Michael Bennett was the first guy, and then Cliff Averill comes in to finish him off.
Well, I'm just going to make a recommendation that you don't do that when you're playing against this defense. You know, nobody's faster than Chris Johnson playing running back, but you just don't get outside of this defense. You see them when somebody's trying to get outside, they'll have 2 guys run to the boundary to make sure you don't get there. They're too fast.
That's a loss of 8. And a 2nd and 18 from the 20-yard line. Only a 3-man rush. And Palmer slips it underneath, and then Johnson just dropped it, making it 3rd down and 18.
Well, for Carson Palmer, such a beautiful drive to open it and come away with nothing. And now here they are down inside the red zone, and they're backing up again. This is one of those moments, and you understand it's one of those kinds of games. You want to be aggressive, but those 3-pointers are significant as well. This is going to be low-scoring, defensive, and both coaches know it.
3rd and 18. The 3 wideouts are all set to the right. Palmer escapes, throws, and it's caught for a very short game as Darren Fells makes the catch, and Bobby Wagner, the middle linebacker, stops him, and they'll have to settle for a field goal attempt.
So much activity when you get in those 3rd down and longs, and for Carson Palmer, he's done a nice job on the move here tonight. But both teams, we have seen them when they've made the big mistakes, when they've had the holding calls, when they've been taken back. You can't convert 3rd and very long against either one of these defenses.
Chandler Catanzaro, 2nd-year kicker out of Clemson, will put up the first points of the night on a 33-yard field goal. Early 2nd quarter in Seattle. Cards up, 3-zip. On this Sunday night, the Ides of November. There are the standings right now in the NFC West. Arizona 6-2, Seattle 4-4, so they're either a game back or 3 back with a loss to Seattle. St. Louis loses today, 4-5, and the 49ers have their bye week. (3-0). Cardinals with Catanzaro kicking off. And Tyler Lockett, who's a major threat from the 2-yard line. And good coverage there. Out to the 22-yard line. And back to work go the Seahawks.
Tyrann Mathieu, one of the more unique players in the National Football League, and I think one of the best. Is he a safety or is he a cornerback? He considers himself a cornerback, and in reality that's where he plays most, but he has played just about everywhere on this defense. He blitzes, he's in coverage, and he is currently ranked as the 2nd best among cornerbacks, so why not call himself a cornerback? He is some story though, isn't he, Al? And the impact that Patrick Peterson has had on his life, and in many ways may have completely transformed his life. His parents as well.
Star-studded secondary. Got Rashad Johnson back there as well. steady and solid at safety, and Lynch can't get out of the backfield as he gets taken down. Flag here. Buchanan making the tackle. Clete Blakeman will tell us about the call.
Holding. Offense, number 82. 10-yard penalty. Replay, first down.
That backs him up. Coaches like to say, hey, you know, it's another game. You don't want to make too much of a game. You don't want to make too much of a game in the middle of the season. But you brought it up to Bruce Arians last night. Considering the whole history of the Cardinal franchise, there are some games that are bigger than others. You can't dispute it, and this is one of them for Arizona.
You know, it's one of the things that the Arizona players were talking about. They said every time Seattle comes on the field in this rivalry game, they take this attitude that this is something more than a game, and they're angry, and we haven't matched that attitude all the time. Some of those Marshawn Lynch runs didn't sit well. Look out.
And then the ball is loose in the end zone, and Wilson's going to cover up, but this time it is a safety. So we had a near safety before. Wilson loses the ball, runs into his own man, and then is able to at least save 5 points by covering up in the end zone to make it 5-0 Arizona.
Well,
runs
the
into a
scramble starts, and we almost have another butt fumble to deal with here.
5-0, and Arizona will get the ball. There's Calais Campbell. Frosty Rucker is going to get credit for the safety. Okafor coming back from an injury. The defense does its job, picks up 2 points, and now you get the free kick back to Arizona. So the Cards will get it here. Patrick Peterson fields it at the 20-yard line and brings it back 21 yards to the 41, and back we go to the safety.
Well, Alex Okafor is going to push Russell Okung back a little bit, but watch Russell Wilson just sort of almost seems oblivious to what's in front of him, holds the ball loosely, it gets out, and now here we go. As you go back through this season and 31, now 32 sacks, a good percentage of those you have to put on Russell Wilson. Some on the offensive line, yes, some on receivers not being open, but we have seen Russell Wilson this year go to the scramble many times a little too early when he had opportunities to throw the ball down the field.
So he is getting sacked on average 4 times a game. And Palmer is going to throw deep and leaping incomplete. Good coverage that time, intended for John Brown, the guy they called Smoke. And you have Richard Sherman covering, second down. Highest percentage of sacks according to Pro Football Focus. So
right there, so 4th most, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's a small sample size, but Tyrod Taylor, a scrambler, Blake Bortles, a young player. But Russell Wilson, you would not expect that higher percentage of sacks to be attributable to him. I know he's trying to make plays, but we talked to him the other day, and he even realizes I've got to hit that back foot and get the ball out and help my offensive line some.
And Johnson's going to pick up a couple of yards here. So from 2nd and 10, we go to 3rd and 8.
What's really interesting is we saw Richard Sherman almost come up with that interception. They don't have any interceptions from their cornerbacks this year. Earl Thomas just came up with his 3rd. Cam Chancellor has 1, but this great legion of boom and the corners and the way they played back there, and especially Richard Sherman, and especially him against Arizona, has 7 against them alone. None so far this year.
Yeah, his last one would have been in the next to last game last year in Glendale, Arizona. 3rd and 8. Blitz coming. Good protection, though, that time. And the pass is incomplete, but a flag comes in. And that's Sherman covering Brown again. And then you can tell the way Richard's blinking that he knows it's him.
Well, he grabbed the jersey at the separation point. I thought he was fine until the separation point. Then you could see, or I thought I saw him grab the jersey.
Well, the discussion continues. Got a flag on the other side of the field as well.
2 fouls against
Totally.
the defense on the play. Holding, number 26. That penalty's declined. Pass interference, number 25. The ball he placed at the spot of the foul. First down, Arizona.
So you had both corners penalized on that play.
Well, they wanted to get those pass interference numbers up. Right there it is. See it right there? That's what the official saw. Gave that flag a pretty good chunk too. But for the most part, Richard Sherman all over that. John Brown, one of the fastest players in football, and Sherman right in front of him the whole time. Just got a little grabby.
Deep drop. Bennett can't get to him. Slings it downfield. Flag is down, and that's Michael Floyd for the moment, who would set up a 1st and goal. But you have a flag down at the line of scrimmage back at the 48-yard line. That would be a 42-yard gain. However, everybody's coming back to midfield. It's a pretty good indication who it's on.
Illegal formation. Offense. The whitest man covered up the inside receiver. Penalties 5 yards from the previous spot. Replay, 1st down.
I think right here they're both on the line of scrimmage, which means that guy would have been ineligible, and that guy's the one I think that ended up catching the ball. But that here you're going to see on the outside Michael Bennett, but watch Carson Palmer step up as he's done throughout the game to hit that deep over route. This route is something a lot of teams want to try to work against Seattle in the way they play defense. Sometimes on the backside of those routes, they'll jump up a little bit and you can get those deep overs in.
Makes it a 1st and 15. And out of the outside, and that's backhanded by Michael Floyd. Makes a nice catch. Sherman is there again. And that'll be a gain of 11.
And Richard Sherman's not happy. He's saying, all right, call it the other way. Here he comes into me, drives into me right there and pushes off and gets it. But generally, as a wide receiver, you're allowed to sort of lower that shoulder as long as you don't extend the arm. And then a nice catch by Michael Floyd. Seems like Arizona's had the ball the whole game.
Well, they have. I mean, they've run 27 plays, and Seattle's run 10. Johnson to the outside. Found room, picks up the 1st down, takes it to the 36. So Johnson, spectacular seasons in Tennessee, and then he left there, went to New York, had a so-so year, and then he was in a car last March in Orlando, Florida, in a drive-by. He took a bullet in the shoulder. It is still in there. He recuperated during the offseason. The Jets did not exercise the option on the 2nd year of his contract, so he was out there as a free agent and was out there until the middle of the preseason when Arizona picked him up.
We called it a life-altering event, I guess.
From the 36-yard line. And they, talk about, guys being too old at 30, but not Johnson and not Lynch at 29. Let's go to Michelle.
Well, as you mentioned, that bullet in the shoulder put him on bed rest for 6 weeks. He lost 20 pounds. They left the bullet in the shoulder, as you said. He told me that doesn't bother him, but the bullet struck a nerve that left his right hand numb. He couldn't use it at all. He got his feeling back in early June, and that's when he's finally able to really start working out again, Al.
All right, Michelle, as you look at Johnson, and that's Iupati down on the turf. Mike Iupati. Well, that's Mike Iupati. The guard came over from San Francisco, 3-time Pro Bowler. Take a look at how this happened, but as a precaution, they will take him back. Larry Fitzgerald looking on. And here's what happens on the collision with Cam Chancellor.
Right here on the end of the play, you see he just sort of drops his head, which everybody advises against, and that head and neck just compress back into the shoulder pads. Cam Chancellor, a safety, but a huge man delivering that blow, and of course big concern for anybody. We've been through this a little too much with both teams now. Of course, Ricardo Lockett against the Cowboys.
Iupati, a big man, obviously at 330 pounds, but as you said, Chris Chancellor, you get hit by him, he's 6'3" and 232.
Well, and this is such a significant player on this football team.
Back after this. Well, they are strapping Mike Iupati to the board. They've also taken his face mask off. We've seen him move his extremities. Chancellor wants to find out what he can. Obviously very concerned, as is everybody on both teams and everybody in this ballpark right now.
You know, Al, sometimes when you're blocking and something takes you by surprise, and it just looked like Chancellor kind of came around the corner and Iupati reacted and put his head down, and you know, it's just an unfortunate part of this game. Mike Iupati came over from San Francisco, and they wanted to be bigger and stronger on that offensive line, and he's one of the biggest and strongest and great run blocker. We wish him well.
Yeah. A part of that offensive front with the 49ers when they went to the Super Bowl. Expected to have him around there for a long time, but another of the 49ers who has moved on. Mike missed the first 3 games this season with a knee injury, and his spot is going to be taken by Earl Watford. So
it's amazing, Al. I've been on the field when some of this stuff happens, and it's immediately sobering. You know, as a football player, you have to get out there and you get these raw emotions, and it's hard to explain what you're like as a human being on the field, and then all of a sudden one of your guys or somebody on the other team goes down, and there's just this flash of reality that hits you.
Well, let's just hope for the best. I mean, we've seen this too many times. Obviously, it happens a lot. And then every so often, you know, the report comes in, and obviously Michelle will be on top of this, and hopefully the initial indication is that things are a lot better than they look right now.
They just don't take any chances. They are going to take every single precaution, as it should be. We hope he's fine.
So we will get the report as quickly as we can on Mike Iupati. There is Earl Watford, 4th round pick. Played his college ball at James Madison. Started a couple of games at right tackle earlier in the season.
Classic fans here, as always.
Little reset to the game. This statistical update right there. 134 yards to 21. Time of possession 3-1. 29 plays have been run to 10. And right now, as play resumes, the ball is at the 35-yard line with Arizona leading 5-0. And it is 2nd down and 9 for the Cardinals. And that's incomplete. Pass intended for Fitzgerald. He looked around for a flag, sees none. Carrie Williams with the coverage, former Eagle. It'll be 3rd and 9.
Nice job there. And of course, Carrie Williams is going to get a lot of action because he's on the opposite side of Richard Sherman. Larry Fitzgerald a little bit casual coming back to the ball. Good play by Carrie Williams, as that other cornerback, Byron Maxwell, had that role a year ago.
Yeah, Maxwell went to Philadelphia as a free agent. Williams came this way. Ellington is the back on 3rd and 9. Palmer in the pocket, fires, and that'll be caught for a 1st down by Gresham. Former Bengal coming on, and Palmer saying that he's going to be more and more a part of this offense down the stretch.
Well, Carson Palmer knew that every throw he was going to make was going to involve somebody being close or hitting him. That time going right through Jonathan Cooper was Michael Bennett. But it is the guy that Carson Palmer pointed out to us. We said, name somebody we should be talking about on your team. And he went right to Jermaine Gresham and the impact he's had.
1st down to the 23. Now they give it to Johnson. And Chris picks up a couple to the 21-yard line. Williams comes up from the corner. to take him down with 8 minutes to go in the opening half.
Yeah, there's that Larry Fitzgerald block on the edge that's going to force the play to go to the cornerback, Kerry Williams. Larry Fitzgerald now playing the Hines Ward role, and there he is, Cam Chancellor. You saw what he just did with a hit to Mike Upati. That is going to be a matchup. Most teams don't have a wideout that wants any part of Cam Chancellor, but Larry Fitzgerald, a big guy and a good blocker.
2nd and 8. Three-man rush, and that's enough to get him. Sacked at the 29-yard line. Rubin, who came over from Cleveland, gets the sack.
Well, you could tell that Carson Palmer has a good vibe tonight going with Larry Fitzgerald. He looked that way, but Richard Sherman was all over the double move. And if you don't make someone initially open, then it is usually going to result in a sack. Carson Palmer knew at times tonight he was just going to have to take sacks. It's a part of playing Seattle, and it's a part of playing them here.
So the sack by Italian Rubin makes it 3rd and 14. Palmer with a deep drop, going to the end zone, and it is caught by Floyd. Michael Floyd for the touchdown.
Was he in? That's the question. But for Richard Sherman, that was a blown coverage by him.
27 yards if it stands.
Let's see. Michael Floyd, you got one heel toe. It has to get all the way down. The other heel toe, I think that you're going to get credit for it.
Gets both feet in, has control from what we can tell. We'll look at control now from this angle. Has it. And that was a 3rd and 14.
One.
So upon first glance, it looks like it will stand. 2.
And out.
And then out.
And just remember, if that heel, even though the toe was in, if the heel had come down on the line, it would have been incomplete. Nice job by Michael Floyd realizing that.
Already confirmed. Extra point by Catanzaro is good. So after the safety, they get the ball, and they go 59 yards in 10 plays, 6:41 to go, and Arizona leads 12-0. Dancing going on the Arizona sideline. It's been all Cardinals, 12-0 as Catanzaro puts it in the air, and Lockett will down it in the end zone.
All right, let's go back to the touchdown. I'll show you Richard Sherman's mistake. You're going to get this and a go route down the sideline, and there's Richard Sherman. Watch him flinch on this deep out here. He thinks he's going to get an interception, and it happens so much, Al. Your team's going bad. You don't have an interception. You want to make a play, and you just don't do your job. How many times do you hear Bill Belichick say that? Do your job. And that's exactly case in point right there.
And as Bill likes to say, the adverb is do your job well. At the 20-yard line. Rolling is Wilson. And running out of room. Flag is down. Secondary doing its job for Arizona. And
holding. Offense, number 88. 10-yard penalty. Replay, first down.
Jimmy Graham. Go to Michelle.
The update on Mike Upati is that he was taken to a nearby hospital for further evaluation of that neck injury. The good news is he has feeling in all his extremities. And Al, you noticed how quickly both of these medical staffs reacted. I'm told that athletic trainers and medical staffs practice for these traumas constantly, and that's why the reaction was so prompt and so efficient.
Yeah, we saw Michelle. I mean, everybody's got the protocol down now pretty much to a science, which is a lot different than it used to be 20 years ago. And they take the guy off the field in a cart. He couldn't even fit into half the time. And that's incomplete. Coming in to break that up, and a pass intended for Kearse is Gerard Powers. Going back to Sherman, Chris, you were talking about how funny it is. I mean, a year and a half ago, Sherman was getting bored because nobody was coming his way. Now they're coming his way a lot.
Yeah, he hasn't had quite the year overall that he's had in the past, but he is the guy that has been asked to do more. He has been asked to move around. He's been asked to follow different receivers this year, and it started in training camp. But I know he's frustrated, and you can see because he doesn't make plays like that.
And well, beast mode can go nowhere, and you got a quintet, in fact, 5 white shirts who wrap them up.
And this is a Cardinals team that has heard it all too much when they've come in here, that this crowd has been borderline unbearable. They have been able to change games. And they all talked about that whole bully thing. You know, we want to be the bully. We're tired of getting bullied. And Bruce Arians said, well, go do something about it. So far they have.
And you saw Josh Morrow, part of the group that tackled him that time, basically giving it to the fans. 3rd down and 18 now. Play clock at 3. And Wilson that time, good protection, and that is broken up. You had 3 guys, including Matthew, around the intended receiver, and it'll be 4th down and 18.
You better be careful with the old honey badger. He was coming across in man coverage right over here, and he's going to undercut this thing. And this is not what Seattle does well. They are not a 3rd down and long passing team. As a matter of fact, have we seen one read option tonight? Have we seen one of the staples that ordinarily go with this offense? It's almost like they're trying to become this passing team.
Well, they're running the read option a lot less than they have in the past. Good punt there. Patrick Peterson.
Look out.
Around the corner. Dangerous. Good run back, and he steps out of bounds at the 45-yard line of Seattle. So that punt was 57 yards, 24-yard run back. Seattle defense, fewest points allowed, 12, 13, and 14. The Legion of Boom, we talked about them, and of course you've heard a lot about them and know a lot about them if you follow football, you know, through the years. But fascinatingly, no interceptions by a cornerback this season. Cam Chancellor held out for the first 2 weeks of the season. Those were 2 losses. He's come back. Sherman, of course, has been an all-pro, but they're going his way a lot tonight. 8 times they have worked in his direction. And now Arizona starts on the plus side of the field at the 45 of Seattle. And Palmer off his back foot throws, and that will be a 6-yard gain for Darren Fells.
Not quite the noise level in here right now there was when we started that opening on the camera anyway.
I'll say.
Oh boy, and another player down now.
Very, very different. And that would be Frank Clark.
He's a good-looking rookie. I'll say that for him. He is a hustling defensive lineman.
Picked him in the 2nd round out of Michigan. So Clark, who works behind Michael Bennett at defensive end, will get some assistance going to the sideline. And then when play resumes, it's going to be 2nd down and 3. Arizona has now run 3 times as many plays as Seattle, 35-13. Pretty close to 3 times as much.
Frustrating year so far for Russell Wilson. I'm sure Marshawn Lynch as well, and all the guys in this offense. They had been on such a roll through those playoffs, and they're all trying to figure it out right now. Although I will say, for Marshawn Lynch, it would have been very easy for him after that interception in the Super Bowl to go public with how he probably felt about not getting the ball. He walked out and had a simple phrase: team game, bro. And that was about as perfect an answer as Pete Carroll could have hoped for. Kept this team together somehow.
2nd and 3. And Johnson cuts it back and is close to a 1st down at the 35-yard line. And that will be a 1st down.
For Chris Johnson, go back to that, still having that bullet in his shoulder. And he was telling us that if he had not been texting, well, the few times that texting came into play as an advantage, he was leaning forward texting. He said, I'm not sure I'd be here today if I had not been leaning forward in that situation. Him in the shoulder, and may have saved his life.
He was a passenger in the car in which the driver died. From the 35-yard line, Palmer deep down the sideline, and reaching for it is Floyd. Is he in?
We're saying yes.
Michael Floyd holds on and is out of bounds. They'll spot it at the 1 yard line. Great catch. Gets his feet down. And it's a 34-yard catch. Of course, Carroll wants to take a look at this and see if he wants to challenge it.
I love what Michael Floyd did there. So many times receivers stop fighting when the ball's in the air. But you could see that Michael Floyd not pushing off or anything else. We're going to get some kind of a challenge. I think it's by Arizona.
Well, it could be.
He thinks it's a touchdown.
I agree with you on that because it's not going to be an incomplete pass. That's already been determined. Now, does Bruce Arians want to contend?
Arizona is challenging the ruling on the field that the receiver was short of the goal line.
Right. They rule on the field he's short of the goal line, but they're going to look at that on replay.
That
and it looks like it's a touchdown.
Sure does.
So if Arians wins the challenge, they'll add the touchdown.
Boy, how hot has Michael Floyd been? Already 4 straight games with a touchdown, maybe 5.
4 grabs tonight. I think Arians wins this challenge. It looks like he gets into the end zone. Ball crossing the plane, both feet in bounds. And for Michael Floyd, who missed all of preseason, he had hand surgery. That would be his 4th touchdown. Well, 5th touchdown. He's the 2nd of the game and 5th of the season.
Yeah, he came back from those 3 dislocated fingers. Wasn't doing much early in the season, but has been very hot as of late. And that's one of the problems that you have when you play this Arizona team. A lot of depth at running back, a lot of depth at wide receiver. There's nobody you can, in a Belichickian sort of a way, take away and win the game.
So that's going to make it 18-0, assuming that they win this challenge. And that's a score that you don't see very often in this building.
No, you don't. And this is going to send a few shock waves around because you just keep thinking that Seattle is going to settle into their late season run.
After review of the play, the ruling on the field has changed. The runner had control of the ball, extended across the goal line. It is a touchdown. Arizona will not be charged with the timeout. Please put 4 minutes, 2 seconds on the game clock.
So Floyd that time covered by Cary Williams. Arizona with all of its points here in the 2nd quarter.
As a receiver, you want to try and stack that cornerback. You want to get on the good side of him. Now watch what he does here. Just a little arm fighting right there to get him to the front shoulder. Now use that big body to duck inside there and comes up with a touchdown. It was a great play by a big receiver on the outside.
So Catanzaro comes in to try to tack on a 19th point. And the crowd a little stunned right now with 4:02 to go in the first half. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks, a little solemn look on the bench there. Passing yards allowed per game, 2nd in the league coming in, and already they've given up as many yards just about as they've allowed in 4 quarters of the average game this season. 19-0. And Catanzaro to send it down toward Lockett. Kicks it away from him and into the end zone.
Well, one of the stories of this season has been the play of Patrick Peterson and his comeback. Type 2 diabetes. They didn't really know what was wrong with him last year. They only knew that he didn't look the same. He didn't look like he was in shape, and he got the blood sugar under control. And this entire season now, we have seen him back to that Pro Bowl one-on-one, bump and run, in your face kind of coverage. And what a difference he's made. He is very much the mentor for Tyrann Mathieu. dynamic personality on this team and very much the leader of this defense.
5th overall pick in the draft back in 11 out of LSU. He's made the Pro Bowl every season. Wilson fires, and that's caught, and then spun down. Baldwin gaining 9. 2nd and 1. Here's Michelle.
Picking up on Patrick Peterson. You know, he gained almost 20 unwanted pounds last season. His energy level was low. His mind was cloudy. Diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is reversible. And as you said, Chris, he made adjustments and reversed it.
By Michelle on 2nd and 1. The handoff goes to Marshawn Lynch. He gets to the 34. Let's take a look at that weight difference from Patrick last year to this year.
Well, you can just see it in his face, right? The cheeks, a little bit in the belly there as well. You can just see the lean muscle mass and the definition. The one on the right, he's just back to being the athlete that we had all seen for the first 3 years.
And the Seahawks going no huddle, and Wilson's going to pack it in, take off, and get the first down before he steps out of bounds.
So this is very much a part of Russell Wilson and what he does. Before, he blew a play and safety when he started to scramble, but you know, you don't get the good without the bad and the bad without the good. So sometimes they come out on first down there, they go back to a read option, sort of what they do best, and now you get a little Russell Wilson scramble, and they're kicking it back into gear now.
Going no huddle, only the 3rd first down, and now Wilson's going deep, and that's caught on the run, and that is Paul Richardson, who's been injured, comes off the injury list, makes his first start of the season tonight with Ricardo Lockett going on IR, gets free down the sideline, gain of 42.
Yeah, injured a season ago and first game back, and we saw him running around in practice, and he was flying, and this was the sort of missing speed element on this offense. But isn't it funny, Al, that you see him start to you get a good Marshawn Lynch, you get a good scramble from Russell Wilson, now everything's starting to work.
Ticking down to 2 minutes to go, and Wilson fires over the middle, and that's caught. Jimmy Graham, and then dropped. Jimmy Graham had it and couldn't hold on. And that's going to take us to the 2-minute warning. They come that close to a touchdown.
Man, oh man, it's the way it's gone all year.
Yeah, look at this. Has it, can't hold on. Jefferson took it away. It was very, very close. Seattle might have thought about challenging, would not have won it as we looked at the replay, show you in a second. But it's 2nd down and 10 after the incomplete pass for Graham. And Wilson will fire toward Graham again, and that is incomplete, but a flag is thrown. Tyrann Mathieu will get flagged for interference. So they go Graham's way again, and that's going to move it close to the
Pass
goal line.
interference. Defense, number 32. The ball he placed at the 1-yard line. First down, Seattle.
Well, this is a physical mismatch. A smallish corner against 6'7" on the other side. Now his head is not turned around. I think if his head had been around, maybe he gets away with it, but turned around that way just kept Jimmy Graham from the ball, and I think that was a good call.
Give away about 10 inches on that matchup. Tukuafu is the fullback. Lynch is the running back. On a 1st and goal, and you give it to the fullback Tukuafu, and he will take it into the end zone. So they go 80 yards, 6 plays, 3 runs, 3 passes, almost get the touchdown to Graham. Get the pass interference call, then take it in. And Seattle gets on the board for the first time in the game late in the first half.
Here's why you want to bring Justin Britt inside from tackle. Watch this block. Anytime you get an offensive lineman takes his guy and just drives him 4 or 5 yards back into the end zone. That was Rodney Gunter, the rookie. That was a big time block right there. Former Missouri wrestling champ with a takedown. Legal one. Kind of legal.
Tukuafu's been in the league for 6 years. He's a blocking back. It's only the 2nd time he's ever carried the ball. And he gets his first touchdown. Corey Redding hobbling off. We saw Tom Cable, the offensive line coach. So Reading needs assistance getting to the bench. Seattle needed a drive like that because they'd shown nothing to that point. And they pick up 5 first downs on the drive.
And they did it the way they used to look on offense. Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson with a run. Now take a shot to your new weapon, Jimmy Graham.
So Hauschka now for the extra point. And with a minute and 52 seconds remaining in the opening half, Arizona leads 19-7.
This is a team that has had a lead in the last 56 games. You think about that, that is almost impossible to believe that they have had a lead in 56 straight football games, the longest streak in NFL history.
Yep.
Obviously no lead yet in this one, but when this crowd gets into it, who knows what could happen from here.
3.5 seasons where I mentioned we were going to look at that Graham play again, that non-touchdown. This is the kind of play where, you know, it's very close, but they wouldn't have won the challenge. Could have challenged, Seattle could have. Knocked away by Tony Jefferson at the very end.
You know, the weird thing about it is, if you asked a little kid, did he catch that ball, he'd say, yeah. You know?
A few big kids, too.
Yeah, you know, but whatever, the rules are the rules in the NFL.
Hauschka's kickoff. And David Johnson will take a knee in the end zone.
Well, wide receivers have a lot of jobs in this game, and starting with Larry Fitzgerald has to take on probably the toughest guy to block there is in the secondary, and then Larry Fitzgerald's been getting it done, and then it turned into the Michael Floyd show. A little mistake there, just a moment hesitation from Richard Sherman. And then the little arm battle and a good challenge by Bruce Arians, and so far going the Arizona Cardinals' way.
Cards with all of their timeouts at their disposal with a minute and 52. Palmer fires, that's caught. Here's Floyd again, had the first down, brought it back, gets it again out to the 31-yard line.
And you know, Carson Palmer has been doing so well with those deep balls this year. There aren't many teams, maybe Pittsburgh being the other, that still relies on those deep throws.
Palmer slings it to the outside, and does Fitzgerald stay in? He does.
What a catch.
Larry Fitzgerald shed covering on the play, dragging those feet.
Just watch him let his body go limp, drag those toes, and maintain control.
Crowd sees it. It can't be challenged, and the crowd says, what? That would have had to have been stopped by New York, and Andre Ellington takes it to the 41-yard line.
I thought he had it. I really thought his feet were down.
Takes its first timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
Cards take a timeout. 79 seconds.
One more. Watch that back toe on the ground as the catch.
Toe down, other toe.
Well, the other toe was still on the ground.
Yeah, right. And control. Replay telling us they confirmed a catch without stopping it. Larry Fitzgerald had a chance, you know, to leave Arizona, maybe end his career someplace else, but he's been a Cardinal through and through. I mean, he had a postseason in 2008 when they went to the Super Bowl and lost the thriller to Pittsburgh. That would have been among the greatest of all time. It was among the greatest of all time. It would have been, had they won the Super Bowl, it would have been for the ages.
MCL hamstring issues the last 2 years, but healthy and tearing it up right now.
2nd down and 1. And now this is Ellington. He's going to swing to the outside and try to dart for a first down. Looks to be a little bit short as the clock runs down to a minute. Irvin makes the tackle. And they put the ball.
They marked it.
Yeah, they marked. And Aaron's just saying, if you can mark it right there, it's a first down. So you should measure, if nothing else. They stopped the clock. One official looked like he was going to mark it short of the first down.
The official on the outside came running up and marked it across the line. And the other official who marked it initially said, no, let's back it up where I put it initially. And so there we go. So Arians, by arguing, lost a half a yard.
But he got the clock
Arizona
to stop.
Takes its second timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
Well, they're going to take a timeout here. You take a timeout hoping that New York takes a look at this and says we're going to stop it here. He has the first down. That's the only way it can be changed. Hand down. Knee goes. That's where the play is dead at that point. Stick is right on the 40-yard line.
No question, shy of the 40-yard line here. And for Andre Ellington, I think everybody has to learn the hard way right there. You have to learn the hard way not to bounce it outside. And you would think with as much emphasis as that was put on these running backs this week, they wouldn't try and do it. And yet we've seen it happen 3 or 4 times tonight.
All right, 3rd down and 1 from the 40. And a first down as Ellington angles his way to the 39. Arizona conserving its final timeout. Clock running. First down at the 39-yard line.
Got him.
3-man rush to the outside, and you got a flag down.
Yeah, they had too many men on the field and called timeout.
And that's Bruce Irvin, who is shaken up, losing his helmet.
Prior to the snap, Seattle takes its second timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
They may have had too many guys on the field, which is why they may have taken that timeout.
Oh, no question. They had a couple of big guys trying to sprint off the field. Pete Carroll saw it. Here they come off right down here, trying to make it. That's a long way for a defensive lineman to run. Pete Carroll realized wasn't going to make it, called the timeout. But in the meantime, during that timeout, it looked like Bruce Irvin may have gotten poked in the eye because the play started on the other side, and Jared Valdir just trying to block him looked like it went right through the face mask.
Irvin has to come out.
Sure that's not breaking Carson Palmer's heart.
No way.
Still have plenty of good ones on the edge, though. Michael Bennett inside.
4-man rush over the. Whoa, what a pop taken there. Bobby Wagner hitting Andre Ellington. 30 seconds.
Oh.
2nd down and 4. And Palmer slides away. That's caught, but then the ball is loose and picked up at the 23-yard line, but they're going to say it incomplete. Incomplete. The play will stop. The clock will go back to where the incompletion was. Bobby Wagner is there to bust it up.
Very interesting. He caught that ball and turned. Now
ruling on the field is an incomplete pass. Brings up 3rd down.
At best, Seattle could get the ball here if they rule that a completed pass. Watch him. He's going to catch it, turn up the field. That's close.
Crowd sees it. They want to see it reviewed. Of course, they look at it. New York, it's inside 2 minutes. There are no challenges.
Oh, baby.
Here it is in real time, the way the officials see it. And now, I assume, well, now you got a timeout taken by Seattle.
Pete wanting to give him a little bit longer to look at that one.
Final timeout. This is a 30-second timeout.
What Pete is saying basically is, hey, Gotham, check this out.
Send up the bat signal there.
Right.
Because it is a point play. They are in field goal range right now. And neither one of these coaches too happy with these officials. And the reason is because nobody knows what the rules are here. There's no definitive rule that says you get 2 feet down, whatever it is, something definitive has to come out of this offseason for what is a catch and not a catch.
Well, now we're learning that New York called the timeout and not Seattle. So New York wants to look at it. They are looking at it, which would give Seattle its timeout back. Wagner sees the replay. I mean, everything is parsed like crazy here. So New York stopped it, but they are going to allow the play to stand as called on the field, and it's 3rd down and 4. Everything's in McGill. And now this play is stopped.
Prior to the snap, I was notified that the previous play is under review.
Wow. You see, I had a feeling New York had stopped it. Seattle didn't have to take the timeout.
Believe me, the officials are in favor of definitive rules too.
Right.
Let's not dump this on the officials. At some point at the end of this year, there has to be something definitive that comes out of these rules of what is a catch and not a catch.
Good
2
luck.
feet down, 3 feet down, I don't care what it is, but let's make a rule. 1, 2, did he get the third one down? So there's some rule that we can come up with. And I think the fear is they don't want to have all these sort of catch, non-catch turned into fumbles, but at the same time, it's impossible to officiate right now.
Correct. I mean, they got to parse everything anyway. I mean, it's not as if the competition committee hasn't looked at this year after year after year to try to simplify it. They're not blind to it. The game may be just too tough to officiate perfectly, or even to look at replays and figure it out.
You know, we've heard conversations. I've even heard conversations that make it in the field of play 3 steps. So if you catch it 1, 2, 3, that would be a completion no matter what happens after that. On the sideline, in the goal line, make it 2 steps. You have 2 steps inbounds with possession of the ball, like a Jimmy Graham play, touchdown. At least there's some definitive line drawn as to what is a catch and not a catch. But whatever it is, and I don't care what it is, they just have to come up with something definitive.
We were told that the communication from the replay to the officials on the field, that communication had failed. That's the reason you had the complexity of Seattle getting a timeout, not getting a timeout, New York stopping it. Officials don't know it until after the snap. So we'll see what happens. Where are we? What town are we in right now?
I don't know. Subjective to objective. That's what needs to happen this offseason.
There is the replay booth. Of course, New York looks at it, communicates, and goes to the officials.
And probably what will come out of it is, because there wasn't anything definitive, it probably will stand as is, and they're going to go with what the officials on the field saw. If there's something definitive, they'll overturn.
Or if somebody in the Aleutian Islands comes up with an idea for what happened on that play. Oh, man. Well,
doesn't it seem like it's all hit? I guess the Calvin Johnson play. We've seen it before. It's not like it's.
After review of the play, the ruling on the field stands as called. It is an incomplete pass. Brings up 3rd down. Because they're notified prior to Seattle taking a timeout. Seattle gets their timeout back, so they'll have 1 remaining timeout.
All right, so Seattle gets its timeout back. Arizona has a timeout. It's going to be 3rd down and 4. They're at the 33. You'd be looking at a 51-yard field goal attempt here.
Basically, stands means we don't know either.
Yeah. David Johnson is now in the backfield. 3rd down and 4. Of course, the crowd really loves it. Clock went back to 21 seconds, and that is caught, and that is the rookie David Johnson to the 25-yard line. Clock ticking down. They have that timeout, and Palmer's going to say, all right, let it go down all the way and leave us time for a field goal attempt. And that's the way the half is going to end, with a Catanzaro attempt.
3rd and final timeout.
So it'll be about a 43-yard attempt.
I'll tell you what, that guy, not that guy, but Carson Palmer, very much in the MVP conversation, don't you think? Come up here with the kind of performance he's put on in this place against this defense, sort of confirms his spot in that conversation.
Oh, yeah. Tom Brady, of course. You got Andy Dalton. We're going to see Andy next week when Cincinnati goes to Arizona on Sunday Night Football. And Palmer, at the age of 35, playing as well as ever. So Catanzaro now with a 43-yard attempt. He's 1 for 1. Made one from 33 earlier. And that one is right down the middle. So at the end of another wild and woolly first half, it's 22-7. as we start the third quarter on a night when Arizona can either take a 3-game lead or Seattle can shave the lead in the West to 1. Here's Tyler Lockett, the rookie out of Kansas State. He'll bring it back to the 20, and Michelle with a lot to report on. Michelle.
Well, yeah, Bruce Arians told me at halftime that he had a chance to speak to left guard Mike Iupati on the field before Iupati was taken by ambulance to a trauma center at a local hospital with a neck injury. Now, he said that Iupati did feel some numbness at first after that collision with Cam Chancellor, but then regained feeling in all of his extremities, and he described Iupati's state of mind as, quote, fine. Beyond that, no other official update on his condition, Al.
All right, thank you, Michelle, and hopefully, we just can only hope that Mike will be able to get on that plane when the team flies back to Phoenix tonight. From the 20. Low snap. Wilson fires, and it's behind the intended receiver, behind Jimmy Graham. It'll be second down.
Well, let's see if they get back to how they scored right before the half there. Start with a read option. There you go. Had somebody outside. Lynch get you started. Now Russell Wilson, scramble around, do what you do. Pick up a first down. Now they start thinking that you're going to run the ball, go right over the top on them. That's the way this offense has looked on occasion.
Lynch sliding away, taking Matthew for a ride, and half of that Cardinal defense as well, and that gets the crowd stirred up all the way out to the 36-yard line.
Well, here it is again, and I think it's Deion Buchanan who's going to come up and think he has him and just melt. I mean, just goes right to his knees. That's a safety. That's an athletic guy. And, you know, for all the talk of Russell Wilson and what he is to this offense, and he certainly has been such a significant part, for me, it is Marshawn Lynch where it begins, and if it doesn't begin there, they're going to struggle.
And here goes Thomas Rawls, an undrafted rookie, and he has made his mark. That's a gain of 13. Rawls, 2 years at Michigan, sat out a year, went to Central Michigan, and Pete Carroll had his eye on him, and he leads the team in rushing coming into the game.
How about your backup running back is actually your leading rusher? He came in against Cincinnati and put on a show. He had the longest play of the year, like a 69-yard run. Watching him in practice, I couldn't believe how quick he is. I'd seen the power before. I didn't realize quite how quick he was.
Lynch back in now. He flares out off his fingertips and incomplete. Second down and 10. Little pie chart as to what happens in that Seattle offense. Lynch has missed some time this year, but he's carried about a third of the time, 34%. Rawls at 34%. And then you got Russell Wilson, of course, who is always a threat to run. And there they were, the three of them, the only team in the league with 3 players over 300 rushing yards coming in. Rawls back in here. And he splits out on a second down and 10. And Wilson slides out the back door and then throws a changeup to Jimmy Graham to the 20-yard line. First down. A little floater. A little teardrop, as they might say in the NBA.
He's back to his old baseball roots. Here we go. Just drift down, and as your quarterback scrambles, it's one of the things I think Jimmy Graham has had to learn. When he was in New Orleans, right, Drew Brees, he sort of threw everything on time. And here, the scramble drill is always a part of Russell Wilson's offense.
From the 21 now, fired over the middle and incomplete. At the 10-yard line, Jefferson covering Jimmy Graham, second and 10.
These safeties have really been eyeballing Jimmy Graham. You'll see here as he comes up, and that's Tony Jefferson coming right in over the top to knock that ball away. They know the one thing that I think that they could do a little bit of is sort of get in some of those 3-by-1 sets where you take Jimmy Graham to one side and 3 receivers to the other side and make the defense choose. Give that option. If they want to play one-on-one against Jimmy Graham, then go to work.
Now Graham coming in motion, slot right, fake to Lynch. He stays in the block. There goes Wilson out the back door again, but not very far. Taken down at the 21-yard line. Buchanan on the tackle. It's going to set up a 3rd down and 9 for the Seahawks.
Yeah, but you know, again, and I don't want to get into questioning play calling. I've done that enough in my lifetime. But, you know, when they get the running game going, it seems like plays happen. And then, you know, Russell Wilson gets out and he makes a play. But on 1st and 2nd down, you go pass, and now you're looking at 3rd and 10 here.
You're just trying to get a job as an OC, aren't you?
I do not want. Yeah, no.
3rd and 10 from the 21. Over the middle, that's caught, but shy of the 1st down as Bethel makes the tackle on Baldwin. So the ball is now at the 13-yard line, and it's going to be 4th down.
Yeah, you have to take the points.
Yeah, Wilson trying to talk Carroll into going for it, but it's 4th and 2.
Right call. Way too early in this game. Take the points.
31-yard field goal attempt for Hauschka. The opening drive of the second half, and Hauschka trying to make it a 12-point game. And he tacks on 3 here with 11:18 to go in the 3rd quarter. It's now 22-10 Cardinals. Five yards into the end zone, David Johnson will bring it back to the 17-yard line.
Well, Carson Palmer, 2 knee surgeries later, moving around pretty good in the pocket. Several of the big plays have happened because of his ability to escape, get the football out. That was a big 1st down on 3rd down, I believe, if I remember correctly. Here he is once again, up and through. Another big 1st down, and then on the touchdown, steps right up into a clean pocket and gets it done again. It's been one of those kind of years for Carson Palmer. Really, the only time they haven't been impressive tonight was the 1 interception after they drove the ball 75 yards down the field.
So Palmer will take his first snap of this half out of the pistol. Now they flank him to the left. And Palmer hangs in the pocket, fires, caught up at the 38-yard line. Larry Fitzgerald. Earl Thomas makes the tackle. Gain of 21. Larry can start working on his Canton speech any day.
Well, I tell you, they have really, and Carson Palmer was talking about it, how much time those 2 guys spend in the film room. And Fitzgerald really was never a slot receiver. He was never an inside guy like he's playing right now. But he just continues to find the holes in this zone defense, and Carson keeps looking for him.
Keep an eye on Fitzgerald. Came back grimacing to the huddle that time. Here's Johnson to the 40. Over the last 2 years, you take a look at these 2 guys when they hook up last season and this season. 79% of the time that Fitzgerald's been targeted, 2nd best in the league. 10.8 per pass, 9 touchdowns and 1 pick. We were talking to Carson last night about that. Well, you guys really got it going. And he said, you know what? It took us a while, though, because the first year, 2013, we weren't on the same page, but we had to work at it. And you see the results there.
But there he is in the slot again. And I think it's probably extended his career because now his craftiness in there comes into play. Comes a slot blitz.
2nd and 8. And trying to bust his way up the middle, Chris Johnson, but Shed had other ideas. It'll be 3rd and 7.
Yeah, really no choice for Chris Richard now. He has to start getting a little aggressive. There's Bruce Arians once again. Carson Palmer saying in their last game he thought it was the best play called game he'd ever been a part of, and this one's been pretty good too.
That was a victory in Cleveland before the bye. 5 receivers, 5 blockers, 3rd and 6. And that is incomplete. He tried to get it over the middle to Andre Ellington. And so the Seattle defense holds. And in comes the punting unit.
Boy, that was a big miss. They had the pick on the outside done perfectly. And Ellington was wide open. I think that Carson thought he was going to keep running on the play. As a receiver, you have the option to sit down, but you can see what a job Michael Floyd did, and that's just what messed. And Carson Palmer said, come on, man, just keep running. It was man.
Butler to kick it to Lockett. His father, Kevin, played in the league for a lot of years, primarily with Kansas City. Makes the fair catch at the 14-yard line. A little less than 9 to go in the third. 12-point game. Down Buchanan, he was their #1 pick last year, played his college football across the state in the Palouse at Washington State. Wears number 20, but he really plays the linebacker spot. They list him as a safety, but he's a linebacker at about 211 pounds.
Leading tackler on the team, and really a remarkable story.
Here's Rawls trying to do a Marshawn Lynch imitation. Gets about 6 and then crawls for another 3, but they will give him forward progress only to the 20-yard line.
Yeah, let's pick out. I think Dayon Buchanan right here is going to shoot through at 211 pounds, trying to play inside linebacker. So they're playing Seattle, and what do you anticipate? Well, we're going to run right at that 211-pound guy. And when they've had a little success, but haven't done enough.
Wilson going deep, and it's going to be picked off by Ty Matthew at the 40-yard line. And he's got a little bit of a convoy, but that breaks down after he takes it back to the 37-yard line, and Jimmy Graham makes the tackle. So an overthrow and a pick by Matthew, and another pick by that defense, 14 this season.
This guy is so good. Tyrann Mathieu, look at him. He is an out and up. It looked like it was going to be perfect position. He jumps that out cut and then just flips his hips and comes back underneath that ball and makes a brilliant play. Tyrann Mathieu is a fantastic football player. I think you could play him just about anywhere on the field and he was do all right. But once again, right back to the passing game after a successful run. And I know you have to mix it up. But the one thing I think Arizona was concerned about coming in was just a pure power running game. And they've kind of gotten away from it, maybe because they're behind.
Palmer, pump fake, and then that's underthrown. Flag is thrown. There was contact there. You got Fitzgerald and Sherman in that marquee matchup. And Clete Blakeman will make the call.
Pass interference. Defense, number 25. The ball he placed in the spot of the foul. First down, Arizona.
Again, Richard Sherman's going to try and jump an out cut and get an interception right up here, out, up. And you'll see him just sort of grab Larry Fitzgerald as he goes by. Usually we talk a lot about Richard Sherman, but for other reasons.
Well, Pete Carroll, we mentioned before, was saying that this crew's only called one defensive pass interference call this season. Well, they call one on his main man there. That's the second tonight. Ooh. That's Cliff Averill, former Lion, 8th year in the league right now.
This guy, watch this. When you run something this way, these defensive ends, they look like Usain Bolt in the starting blocks. They're just inside the tight end, and I've watched a lot of tape on this defense. I haven't seen anybody yet that can cut them off on that block.
3-yard loss, second down and 13. Flips it outside. That's incomplete. Intended for John Brown, who's been pretty silent thus far tonight. Smoke Brown is his nickname. It'll be 3rd and 13.
Yeah, with good reason. The other smoke that they have on this team, and J.J. Nelson, they have 2 of the fastest times in the history of the combine, and then Chris Johnson in the backfield, who I think was the fastest.
Key guys for Palmer tonight have been Fitzgerald with 7 catches for 102 yards. Floyd 5 for 94, 2 touchdowns. 3rd and 13. Blitz coming, fires it, caught short of the first, set up a field goal. Andre Ellington makes the catch. That gets it to the 20. and sets up about a 38-yard attempt.
Great job by Carson Palmer. Going to bring the pressure right off the edge, and what do? You throw it right behind it. It gives you a chance. Michael Floyd recognized it right away. He was trying to go right down to block. Earl Thomas just missed the block, or they might have had that first down.
So Catanzaro, this will be a 38-yard attempt. With 6:45 to go in the third to put Arizona up by 15 again, but you've got a flag. 2 of them come in before the snap. It was 4th and 5.
Start. Offense number 92. 5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
All right, 4th and 10. And that's going to make the field goal 5 yards farther back at 43. Frosty Rucker offside, and Bruce Arians has other ideas. Talking to Carl Johnson. A couple of years ago, he was the head of officiating in the league.
Yeah, he thought it'd be quieter on the side. I don't think it is.
Right.
Right there. Just a little flinch in reaction to the defense, but if you don't cross into the neutral zone, you're allowed to have that sort of flinch, and the offense can't react. You're in the neutral zone, different story.
43-yard attempt now for Catanzaro. And that one is right down Main Street. So they get the field goal that Seattle had picked up on its first drive. They get those 3 points back. Up by 15 with 6.5 to go in the third in Seattle. The second half of the season for both of these teams. Game 9. And it's a runnable kickoff. Lockett back out to the 32-yard line. So the rookie sets him up there in the third. 2 owners right there. Mike Bidwell on the left. In the second row, Paul Allen, who's owned the Seahawks for a lot of years, and the Portland Trail Blazers. And you can see the standings again: 6-2 Arizona, 4-4 Seattle. So Arizona will either have a 3-game lead or a 1-game advantage after this one. And right now they're up by 15 in the third. Wilson fires, and that's caught, and on the run, taken off. Baldwin, big gain, and into Arizona territory. That's a gain of 36 yards on Baldwin's 4th catch of the night.
And one of the reasons they wanted Dayon Buchanan to play linebacker was so he could have some of the coverage skills that Darrell Washington had in that position before he got suspended. Good work out there. Ooh.
Lynch.
The ball is bobbled all the way.
Yeah, runs into a lot of traffic and is taken down for a loss of a couple. Josh Morrow is there for the stop.
Yeah, it's one of the dangers of the read option play. You don't always know as a running back, are you going to get the ball? It sort of bounced off his chest. And then I think rightly, Marshawn Lynch said, I'm going to take a little stutter step backwards here just to make sure I have this ball.
Talking about how infrequently they use the read option this year as opposed to years past. Second down and 11, and Wilson is going to get tangled and loses the ball again, but they're going to contend that he was stopped. End of forward progress. You have a flag down. You have a flag down at the 30-yard line as well. Kevin Minter came in to get to Wilson. Play whistle dead, then a flag down at the 30-yard line.
Holding. Defense, number 21. It's a 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
After all that, it's Patrick Peterson with the holding call, first down Seattle.
On the outside, let's take a look. As he started to move inside, grab back around the outside of the shoulder. But Arizona dialing up a few blitzes now coming after Russell Wilson. And now we're going to test to see whether or not Russell Wilson is really committed to getting that ball out of his hand quickly. Like
Good.
that.
Clean pocket, open man, touchdown. Touchdown, Baldwin. That didn't take long. 3 plays, a minute and a half, 69 yards, 32-yard touchdown catch.
There we go, a little sluggo up the field, and they're after Gerard Powers now, who's coming back from a hamstring injury, and they have found a target in this one. But again, quick release, quick throw, get the ball out of his hands. Maybe a little rhythm being found now with this passing game.
Wilson has 9 completions tonight, 5 of them to that guy. Hauschka now for the extra point to make it a 1-possession game, which he does. 4:52 remaining in the 3rd quarter. Arizona 25, Seattle 17 on Sunday Night Football.
And now the Seahawks have a chance.
They're right back in it, 25-17. And it's fielded in the end zone. David Johnson will come out with it to the 19-yard line. That's where Palmer takes over. We go to Michelle.
Well, Al, an update on Cardinals left guard Mike Iupati, who was taken to a local trauma center with a neck injury earlier. According to the Cardinals, Iupati's CT scan and MRI both came back as normal, so that is excellent news. Meanwhile, defensive tackle Corey Redding is out with a right ankle injury, and Seahawks wide receiver Paul Richardson is questionable with a hamstring issue, Al.
All right, thank you, Michelle. So great news on Iupati, and hopefully be able to go back with the team after the game. From the 19-yard line, crowd in full throat after a relatively quiet first half, thanks to Arizona's dominance. And Palmer off play action, deep downfield and through the hands of Floyd. He'd beaten the coverage. He's there. Had it slip through his hands. Second down. You had Williams and Chancellor covering on the play.
What a throw by Carson Palmer. Michael Floyd, who's been so good, they had the crossing route, wasn't there. He uncorks this thing, and Michael Floyd just can't quite catch up to it. I don't think he timed it very well. It wasn't that far away. You dive, you do something to get underneath it. I just don't think he had it fixed in his eyes.
It had to be 60 in the air.
Oh, he launched it.
Yeah. 2nd and 10. Palmer fires this one, and that will be caught. This time by Floyd for a gain of 9.5.
Well, Richard Sherman, one of the great things about him is his vision. He has the ability to turn around and see the quarterback, see everything going on around him. He makes so many plays because of his great vision. Tonight, at least once, got him in trouble. He saw the crosser coming across the field at him, a little hesitation, and Floyd able to sneak in behind him.
Floyd and Fitzgerald each over 100 yards receiving tonight. 3rd and 1, and before we get started, Watford came across the line. Fitzgerald saying you got to call offside on those guys.
There was definitely motion first by Seattle, but did he cross into the neutral zone? You see the reaction, but again, we go back to have to cross into the neutral zone, and time for the debate team.
Well, you have Seattle.
False start. Yeah. Offense number 78. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
Big call.
Just so tough, especially on those 3rd and 1s where you know those defensive linemen are going to try and get underneath you, and it's just a fist fight at the line of scrimmage. And that first motion, Little Watford not playing that much, and now it's 3rd down and 6, completely different situation.
Watford taking the spot of the injured Iupati. Each team has been flagged 7 times. Ellington is the back. 3rd down and 6. Here they come, and Palmer's forced to throw it away and incomplete. Michael Bennett putting the pressure on. They'll have to punt.
I think Bobby Massey that time needed to come inside. They had the blitz coming, and you always have to protect inside. He jumps to the outside guys there and just gave one of the best pass rushers in all of football a free run at the quarterback. Not usually a good idea.
And that is the end result. They'll be looking at grounding as well.
Intentional grounding, offense number 3. Quarterback was in the pocket. There was no one in the vicinity of where the ball landed. The ball we placed at the spot of the foul, which is the 11-yard line. It also is a loss of down, brings up 4th down.
Only guy in the vicinity was Bennett.
Well, we're going to see the stunt right there inside as Massey moved to the outside, and that is the correct call.
Yep. So it backs him up. Have to kick out of the end zone. Drew Butler will send it down to Tyler Lockett.
Look out. This kid's exciting.
And he'll have a chance. But a flag is thrown, so you know what that always means. And the crowd can do a little bit of cheering and get excited and all of that. But every time you see that flag get thrown, you know it's coming back. That's the one thing we do know about the rules, right?
We got that down.
Yeah.
During the kick, holding, receiving team number 33. Penalty is 10 yards from the end of the kick. 1st down.
That's Kelsey McRae.
Right there. There's the hold. You can see the jersey pull.
You're going to pull somebody's jersey on special teams. Might as well be a guy who goes to the Pro Bowl.
Well,
Bethel, their best special teamer.
I'll be back to those tearaways pretty soon.
Alabama.
But the momentum has shifted a bit here, has it not? You kind of get the feeling that Seattle's on a bit of a roll.
In addition to the foul against the receiving team, we also have unsportsmanlike conduct on the kicking team, the bench. That penalty will also be enforced, and Seattle will retain the ball, 1st and 10.
Well, so much for the penalty on the run back. They give that back.
So you go back 10 and up 15.
Correct. Which is a net 5.
Attaboy.
Just in case you're wondering.
I was calculating.
Between Arizona State and Florida, we have the whole thing down. You know that, right?
Michael Bennett would have had it.
Happy birthday to Michael. Turned 30 on Friday. So at the 43-yard line now. Russell Wilson will go to work in a 1-possession game. Over the middle, and that's dropped. Dropped by Graham. Talked about how important this game is for Seattle. You know, last year you forget they were 6-4. They ran the table, and 12-4 got them to the #1 seed in the NFC. So the road to the Super Bowl came through here. This year, forget about that because you got Carolina undefeated, and Carolina's already beaten Seattle.
But there's something about this team. I think Seattle and Pittsburgh are the 2 teams that other teams in the NFL do not want to see even make the tournament because they're ones that could go from a wild card to a Super Bowl.
And Pittsburgh did that against Seattle in 2005, going from the 6 hole to do it as Russell Wilson takes off and gets it out to the 49-yard line.
Now, this offensive line, they were much maligned for much of the year. And yet tonight, if I'm not mistaken, the only sack was on the one that Russell Wilson kind of ran into his own lineman. And a week ago against Dallas, no sacks without Russell Okung. So we're getting better.
3rd and 4. There goes Wilson. Double pump fake. And he stopped at the 47, very close to the 1st down. Blakeman takes a look and signals move those sticks.
That was a healthy spot, too.
Very.
Let's see here. They're going right up to the line of scrimmage. I don't blame them.
Yeah, they don't want
It's a challenge already. I didn't think that was. I thought that one deserved another look anyway.
There comes the challenge flag. That was a 3rd and 4. So if they don't get it and win the challenge, you're going to have a 4th down.
Arizona is challenging the ruling on the field of the spot where the runner was down by contact.
All right, they'll take a look, see where they can spot it. If Arizona wins the challenge, they'll have one more. They've already used one and won it.
Elbow down there.
Otherwise, they're out. So it looks like the ball has not reached. Of course, the yellow line is not official. You know that.
But it is on the other side. They moved it up to about here, or at best, it probably was somewhere in there. Is that official enough?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Right there, the elbow is down short of that hash mark for sure. You could see that hash mark on the other side.
Well, Arians won his first challenge on the Floyd touchdown catch, which was originally ruled out at the 1-yard line. So if he wins this one, he gets another one. If you win both, you get a 3rd.
After review of the play, the runner was down by contact with the ball short of the line to gain. Brings up 4th down at that spot. Arizona will not be charged a timeout, and because they've had 2 successful challenges, they're granted a 3rd.
All right, so you're Pete Carroll right now. You got 4th down and inches. You're going to at least line up to go for it. And with the ball at the 47.5-yard line, 2:19 to go in the 3rd. Lynch is in the game. Tuguafo, the fullback, is in the game as well. 4th and inches.
Tuguafo got it earlier.
He gets it again, and he leans forward. Let's see. Let's see. You tell me at this point. Could have another challenge at the end.
Whatever they say it is, because that is a massive pile.
Yep. So that's where they're going to spot the ball. If it's a first down, Arians would have another challenge, but what's definitive?
Wow.
Let's look at it from this side.
Did he ever make it there? One of the linemen went across that line, but remember the ball has to get there. Right down the line, you had some chance of seeing it.
Well, they measure, and where they spotted it is a first down. And if you're Arians, well, he's got that challenge. But I don't know how you see where the ball is. He threw it.
Yeah.
So he gets that 3rd challenge.
You know, just watching it with the naked eye, it sort of looked like the lineman fell across the line. I wasn't sure that the back of the ball did.
Challenging the ruling on the field of the location of the spot where the runner was down by contact.
No coach has ever won 3 challenges in a game. It's rarely happened. We even have a 3rd challenge.
Where does the ball end up?
Remember, you have to overturn the ruling on the field.
See, this is the ball back in here. All right, so you can use multiple replays to tie it together. Watch him. He's going to slide pretty much straight down from there, but you kind of lose track of the ball, so you can't use that to overturn anything. And this obviously not enough down the line. I think it's going to be one of those, Al, that stands.
Well, yeah, but you have to have, you've heard it 18 million times, of course, conclusive evidence, indisputable visual evidence, whatever you call it. So
Hard to believe a guy that big can get lost in anything.
Yeah, he just did. 280 pounds is Will Tukoafu.
This is the only angle that you can make an argument with. Now Lewis obviously is there, but here, back here, is where the ball is. But I don't know that you can find a distinguishing mark on the field to say definitively where it was.
That's exactly right. You can't see the ball in relation to the line. Most times you can. There's a point of reference.
As they play Let It Be.
Yeah, Let It Be. It's great. Classic. That's good. That's very good. Yeah, we think it stands because you just can't see. You can't see definitively.
That's way better than the old Jeopardy thing.
Oh yeah. Get some garage band to play it. Perfect. Grunge. Here we go.
After review of the play, the ruling on the field stands as called. It is a first down for Seattle. Arizona will be charged a timeout, and they are now out of challenges.
So with 2:03, the drive resumes at the 47 of the Cardinals.
And we shall see if no challenges comes into play now.
Well, even had Arians won it, he was out of them. 3 and out. So a first down at the 47-yard line. Big hole. Lynch. Marshawn Lynch flagged down. It's an 11-yard gain pending the penalty. And this one is, I believe, coming back because Carroll's already out on the field.
Holding. Offense number 64. 10-yard penalty. Replay first down.
J.R. Sweezy.
Yeah, one of the problems when you get a back that can go anywhere like this, Sweezy thought he had it blocked going off this way, and then Lynch comes that way, and his natural reaction was to just grab the guy he was blocking as he was trying to pull away, and you see the little arm hooked out there and two guys standing behind the offense. They don't miss much.
1st and 20. It's Thomas Rawls now in the game. Put him in the slot to the left. And Wilson chased out. Keeps his eyes downfield. He's going to take off with it. And the ball fumbled out of bounds. So it'll be 2nd down. 2nd and 15. Abdominal issue. And there is Lynch on the bench. Moments ago took him out of practice on Friday and put some heat on it right now.
A couple Skittles on it. Be all good.
Kuhn looked like he was shaken up on the last play. The left tackle. 2nd down and 15. And Wilson just has to fire that one away.
And he got outside the tackle box, so probably going to be okay. And Dwight Freeney is the one that brought the heat in his little patented spin move here, working on the outside against Bailey.
Yeah, well, you had Okun going out of the game because he was shaken up in the prior play. So Bailey goes in to play left tackle. And now it'll be 3rd down and 15.
That's the configuration that they used against the Cowboys as well. It was Bailey that played in that one, and no sacks allowed in that game.
So 3rd and 15 with a restructured offensive line, at least for the moment. And Wilson sliding away and throws that one away. Justin Bethel came in from the corner to put the heat on the corner blitz. It's 4th down and 15.
Well, they have managed to get some free runners going now. Here they come off the edge, and Wilson just no choice, going to have to try and scramble out and make a play. At least he gets rid of it. but they just don't hit enough of those quick timing rhythm passes. You know, I always refer back to Kurt Warner as a guy that controlled how much teams blitzed him because he was so adept at getting the ball out of his hand quickly. He controlled what they did.
Ryan's kick bounces at the 14 and skids out of bounds with 40 seconds remaining in the third quarter. So take a look at those numbers. 273 for Carson Palmer, which is pretty much what he's been doing all season long. 273. And Wilson 9 of 23. Been sacked twice by distance. Each guy has gone long 4 times and connected twice.
But now it's time for this defense that has had opportunities in games this year to lock away wins with stands. This is a team that 40% of the time offenses don't even pick up a first down. They need one of those right here.
From the 14-yard line, this drive begins with Johnson picking up about 4 to the 18-yard line, tackled there by Kerry Williams.
I'll tell you, Kerry Williams done a nice job tonight. They have been trying to force the running backs out to him on the corner to make tackles, and he's been making them all night long. Good playing at cornerback.
They do not have to run a play, so time will expire in the third quarter as the Arizona Cardinals will go into the fourth quarter in a 1-possession game up by 8. End of 3. It's Arizona 25. Seattle 17. Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages. Looking at Seattle, Washington. Back we come to CenturyLink Field on 2nd down and 6. Palmer chased out, throws it into the Seattle bench. 3rd down. Well, Carson Palmer won the Heisman Trophy. Recruited by Paul Hackett, then played for Pete Carroll his junior and senior years. And Bruce Arians played, of course, for Marvin Lewis many years. Spent 2 years in Oakland. Talking about Bruce and Pete, and talking about 2 guys who are kind of 180 in a way, but they share a lot of similar traits.
Carson said you could not be on more opposite ends of the spectrum than those 2. Of course, Bruce Arians such a fan-friendly kind of guy, but Carson says he's rough on the players in those film sessions.
3rd down and 6. Look out! And he loses the ball. The ball is loose, and it's picked up by the Seahawks, and rolling into the end zone for a touchdown is KJ Wright. Bouncing ball. You had Cliff Averill coming in, forcing it. The ball is dislodged. It bounces up in the air. Palmer can't handle it.
But I think Carson Palmer made the tackle on this play. So
Running
here
on the
comes.
field is a touchdown.
Ball's out, no question. It's actually going to get kicked there. But now let's watch and see as they pick it up if Carson Palmer gets a piece. He's diving for the ball and definitely hits KJ Wright. So that will not be a touchdown.
Be down by contact at the 2-yard line. So all turnovers reviewed, and it should make it a 1st and goal at the 2. And KJ Wright,
play is under review.
Who's had a great year, but I haven't called his name very often tonight. He's not been involved as much as he has been. Got so many stars on this defense. You overlook a guy like that, and the minute you start overlooking him, up he pops for what would be the biggest play of the game to this point.
Off the edge right here, and nobody picks it up. Bobby Massey goes down inside, and they basically just turn Averill loose around the edge. That's the 2nd time now we've seen that Massey has chosen sort of opposite maybe what would have been the right thing, but that ball was bouncing around, and I think that Carson Palmer was the only one on the Cardinals that knew it was so loud in here as that was happening. At least he made the heads-up play there to save it. It's much the same way that Russell Wilson did against the Dallas Cowboys, maybe to win that game if he hadn't made that tackle.
Cliff Averill is the master of the sack fumble. He's caused 22 of them in his 8 years in the league. Started his career with Detroit. You got Robert Mathis at 22 and Tamba Hali of Kansas City with the same number. But he does it here again, and they'll probably rule this down by contact and a 1st and goal at the 2-yard line.
I believe that between he and Michael Bennett is the best pair of 4-3 defensive ends in football. Those guys can just create so many problems, and they can line up anywhere up and down the field, but boy, they are a nightmare to try and get blocked so quick. And then once this crowd gets into it.
After review of the play, the defender recovered the ball, was contacted by the quarterback, putting him down by contact with the ball at the 3-yard line. So Seattle's ball, 1st and goal from the 3. Please put 14 minutes, 49 seconds on the game clock.
So Tom Cable, offensive line coach. For a while he was the head coach of Oakland.
I tell you, he has remade this offensive line. They were not very good early in the year, but over the past 2 or 3 games you can see the improvement.
There's Okun, who hurt his ankle and had to come out on the last series. He's back in the game at left tackle. 1st and goal now from the 3-yard line. Lynch is the running back. Marchand looking for room, finds it, touchdown. Conventional handshakes in the end zone. Don't see that very often these days. And with a 2-point conversion, we'd have a tie game.
Well, Patrick Lewis, the new center, right in there, going to jump out and get Dayum Buchanan, and then Marshawn Lynch took his sweet time getting in there, but eventually found his way in, and nobody ever did put him on the ground. Now this game is starting to turn into the physical battle that I really thought it might be for the Seattle Seahawks and what they might do on offense, and maybe now they just carry this on. Because once Marshawn Lynch gets going, boy, this place goes crazy in here.
So the 2-point conversion, 3 receivers set to the left to try to tie the game. And a little floater is incomplete, and there is no flag on the play. So it remains a 2-point game with Arizona still on top early in the 4th. Beautiful look at Century Link Field, just south of downtown Seattle. That's Marshawn Lynch's mother, Delisa. She gets the football that he carried into the end zone.
Not afraid of expressing her opinion.
Nope.
We've read a few of those. Loves her baby.
Well, her baby's pretty quiet, at least publicly, so mom carries the torch. David Johnson from a couple of yards in. And the coverage is outstanding, tackled by Michael Morgan up at the 13-yard line.
You know, and one of the things for Arizona offensively is since Mike Iupati has gone out, we have not seen the same kind of success running the football.
Go back to regular season, postseason since 2012. All 4 home games in which they trailed by 10 or more, they won. They trailed by 19 at one point tonight. 2 of those wins were in the NFC Championship games against San Francisco and then last year against Green Bay. So the crowd trying to disrupt the signals of Carson Palmer as he begins this drive from the 13-yard line. Pressure up the middle. Palmer to the outside, too high for Fitzgerald. Covered by Williams, 2nd down and 10.
Boy, Chris Johnson is not a very big guy, but Carson Palmer said, listen, this guy is not afraid of anything. These people are about 30 to 40 pounds heavier than he is, and he just sort of steps up and protects me. I love him. Said he had the protections down in the first week. I couldn't believe how smart a guy he was.
And Wagner got in there at the end to contact Palmer at 2nd down and 10.
But they continue to bring the pressure.
Pollard slips away. And that's incomplete. And Fitzgerald gets ripped by Wright, and a flag comes in. So Larry able to get up and with a smile knows that he'll be the recipient and beneficiary of a personal foul.
Just a no doubter there.
Personal foul. Unnecessary roughness. Helmet-to-helmet contact on the defenseless receiver. Penalties 15 yards from the previous spot. First down.
Fitzgerald knew it was going to come because he was trying to slow down and tell him, here, hit me here, but instead KJ Wright hit him there. Right call. KJ Wright saying, listen, my bad.
Yep. Larry bounces up with a smile. Big penalty. Gets him up to the 28-yard line. First down. Half a minute into the fourth quarter.
3 tight ends in now for Arizona. Maybe they try and establish some run game.
Yeah, haven't seen this set. And this is Johnson who gets taken down there for a gain of 2. Sherman and Chancellor come up to take him down. It'll be 2nd down and 8.
Yeah, it's one thing to say Larry Fitzgerald's going to block him. It's another thing to get it done. Chancellor's going to spin off of this block right back into Johnson. We have not seen Chris Johnson break out in this one the way he has in some prior games.
Johnson again slides to his left up to the 34. Irvin in on the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and 4 for the Cardinals.
Well, that was some play by Jordan Hill too as he fought off the block of Watford and made a diving stop. There was a little space there.
Third down, 4. 3 receivers to the right. Palmer's going to go down. The ball's out again. And going into the end zone to give Seattle the lead for the touchdown is Bobby Wagner. KJ Wright with the strip sack.
That is at least the 3rd free runner I have seen just right up here. When you've got that pressure, you have to block down. It's the interior gaps you have to get first. And maybe because of all the injuries and the substitutions, but they have made a lot of protection mistakes here tonight. And Carson Palmer's got to be getting a little gun shy here.
Well, they lose Yapati. They had a big lead.
But Jonathan Cooper and Bobby Massey on the right side have just had issues throughout the course of the night. And the general rule, and I don't know what the rule was for them here, but the general rule is you have to protect the inside gap first because that's the shortest path to the quarterback. And it has cost them a couple.
Well, they're going to go for 2 here to try to make it a 6-point lead. The last 2 third-down plays for Arizona have both been strip sacks.
Wow. And you have to say this atmosphere has something to do with it.
No doubt. And that Seattle defense.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which has always been very good. Leaked a little bit in the first half. But that's the Seattle defense that this crowd has come to know and love. 2-point conversion. Now you got Wilson to the outside. Fires incomplete. So they don't convert again. Marcus Golden put the pressure on. But for the first time tonight, Seattle has the lead. 13 minutes to go. They're up by 4 at home. So Seattle has now had the lead in every game over the last 3.5 seasons, everyone that Wilson has played in. And David Johnson gets tackled up at the 17-yard line.
Well, since Mike Iupati has gone out, protection issues have been an issue. Here they're going to leave a free runner on the inside gap as Massey goes to the outside. Now the only time there's only one guy there, they double team inside and leave Cliff Averill, maybe the most dangerous pass rusher on this team. And now once again they're going to block outside and leave the free runner come inside. Now maybe that was Chris Johnson's guy, I'm not sure. But it has been the protection and the free runners that has completely turned this game.
Well, let's see if the adjustments have been made here as they begin this drive from the 17-yard line. Palmer takes it out of the pistol, throws to Fitzgerald, and Larry up the field all the way up to the 32-yard line for a 15-yard gain and a first down.
But the biggest difference, Al, with this football team, in my opinion, has been their ability to run the ball. And Mike Iupati has been their best run blocker. And with Jared Valdir on that side, they had a power running side. Now without him, they look like a different team running the football, and now the momentum is swung over to Seattle's defense because now it's a pass rush game.
Yeah, but they're averaging about 2.3 yards per rush tonight, and that won't get it done. Palmer to the outside, too high, intended for John Brown. It'll be second down and 10.
Give Carson Palmer credit. He stood in there. I think I'd have been flinching a little bit after what I'd been through for the past 2 or 3 series. But it may very well come down to now. Can Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald and company get it done throwing the football?
Tale of two halves for Palmer, for the Cardinals, who at one point in this game led 19-0. Deep drop, caught. Fitzgerald has to go to the ground though, and that's going to set up a 3rd down and 4. This defense has had trouble holding leads. The Seahawks, with 4 losses this season, in every game they've had the lead in the 4th quarter. They've lost 4 games, 2 in overtime. So Chris Richard, the defensive coordinator, let's see what he dials up on a 3rd down and 4.
They've been doing okay against the 4-man rush. It's when they brought pressure that they've had issues.
And here comes pressure. And Palmer throws, and a flag is thrown as Floyd makes the catch and skips out of bounds. So he has the first down pending the call. We had 19 accepted penalties in the game. 11 on Seattle.
A little collision with Earl Thomas and Larry Fitzgerald well past 5
Illegal
yards.
Contact. Defense number 29. That penalty's declined. Yardage is enough for a first down.
One of the things that happens when you try and bring that pressure, you have to play man coverage behind it. So that means your safety here, Earl Thomas, has to come up and try and play man coverage on Larry Fitzgerald. Got a little overly aggressive.
And Floyd made that catch, but reached for his leg, so he is out for the moment. Ball at the 48-yard line. And here goes Johnson, and he gets slung back as he crosses midfield by Cam Chancellor. Gain of 3.
Cam Chancellor looks like a linebacker here, taking on this block, controlling, gets arms extended, finds the ball carrier. Sherman forces him to cut back in, and Chancellor makes the play. You just wonder what Seattle's record would have been if Cam Chancellor played in those first 2 ball games where he was holding out.
Yeah. Both were losses, one at St. Louis and the other at Green Bay. 2nd and 7. Play clock at 2. And that's tipped and caught by Jerron Brown. Juggled, almost intercepted, and then Brown is able to snatch it out of the air to pick up the first down at the 39-yard line.
I don't think Richard Sherman can believe it. He could not have jumped this route any better. Watch him undercut this thing. He knows exactly what's going on. He's reading the quarterback, and somehow Brown tips it to himself. What a play.
Yep. And when Floyd came out, it was Jerron Brown who came in. 9:40 to go in regulation. And Palmer's going to go deep downfield, and that one is out of bounds. It's Jerron Brown again, but well out, covered by Sherman. 2nd down and 10.
Take a look at some of the pressure inside here, and Marcus Dobbs working against Cooper here. It's just, there you go. They're all going to make a little sandwich on that one. Carson Palmer's hanging in there, though, isn't he?
300-yard night for him, 25 of 42, 314 yards. Play clock at 3. Got to snap it.
Look out.
And he gets hit as he throws, and it's Cliff Averill. He's already had a strip sack. 3rd down and 10.
Boy, Averill saw that clock ticking down, and he knew they had to go, and he beat Bobby Massey off the ball and just had a straight line shot. Good, smart play right over here. Clock is ticking. He knew exactly what was off. Got off the ball and almost got another strip sack.
Yeah. You're a defender. You see that thing at 0-0. You're coming.
That was close to being a fumble.
3rd down and 10. This time good protection, and a flag is thrown intended for Britton Golden, who has not caught a pass tonight. He'd be their number 5 guy, as he was over the middle. And again, another conference. 19 accepted penalties in the game.
Defense, number 54.
That'll be the 20th.
The 5-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
So 12 penalties on Seattle, 8 on Arizona. The flag keeps the drive alive.
Obviously no contact after 5 yards. This is well down the field, and that's a little contact. So, you know, it's just unnatural for a linebacker not to hit a little wide receiver running in his space. But you can't, and that was huge.
At the 34-yard line now. 9th play of the drive coming. Pressure. Sliding out. Caught. Jerron Brown. And he's out of bounds at the 14-yard line. Earl Thomas stops him there. Go to Michelle.
Well, quickly, Michael Floyd has a left hamstring. He is questionable, and linebacker Bruce Irvin for Seattle has a right knee issue. He is questionable, so both of those injuries could ultimately impact this drive, Al.
Very much so, Michelle. As you see on the sideline, Floyd, who came out after he made that catch, and then Jerron Brown, who's been a big part of the last 3 or 4 plays, he comes in to take his spot. 10th play of the drive coming up. David Johnson flanks Palmer in the backfield from the 14. And Carson throws to the end zone, and it's juggled and caught for a touchdown by Gresham. Jermaine Gresham juggled for an instant, pulls it in, touchdown, and Arizona takes the lead again.
I tell you, what a drive by Carson Palmer. After all that he went through in the prior 2 or 3 drives, to hang in there. And there's Gresham, the guy that he said, you want to pick out somebody to talk about that's made a difference for us? Coming off of the back surgery, got it just over the hands of Earl Thomas, who has 3 interceptions, 1 tonight. What a drive. That was as impressive a drive and a tough drive out of a quarterback as I've seen in a little while.
Well, Palmer said, watch for Gresham to start making some noise. That's his first touchdown catch of the season. And Catanzaro ready to kick the extra point, but before that,
false start. Offense number 92, 5-yard penalty. Continue to try.
33-yard conversion because of a Frosty Rucker penalty now becomes a 38-yard extra point.
Well, and just remember, they went for 2 twice. So just keep a track of those 2 points as we go along here pretty early in the ball game. Right. Seattle did.
Catanzaro now for the 38-yard extra point, and that one is good with 8:41 to go in a wild one. What else? It's Sunday night. Nothing but wild ones this season. Arizona by 3. A lot of crazy stuff has been happening in Seattle tonight. 61 total points in the game. Arizona has dominated the time of possession 2-1. They run 73 plays to Seattle's 40, but that Seattle defense has accounted for the last 2 touchdowns. And now the Cardinals with the lead again. You got a short kick, and Lockett juggles it, picks it back up, and gets surrounded by a passel of white shirts at the 8-yard line. You go back to the Super Bowl, you go to the 4 games this season, fourth quarter leads, losses after having the lead. Rams, Packers in the first 2 weeks of the season. Then you have the overtime loss at Cincinnati, and they lost to the Panthers on the touchdown pass to Greg Olsen from Cam Newton to keep Carolina unbeaten at that point, and they still are. So from the 9-yard line now, Russell Wilson will go to work on a night when he is 9 out of 23 for 172 yards, and you start with Lynch, and Marshawn keeps on chugging, and he turns no gain into a pickup of about 3 out to the 12-yard line.
It's like trying to tackle a pyramid. It just feels like that you can't get him off his feet. You know, there's so many times that he takes hits from multiple directions and just does not go down. Beast mode is appropriate for this guy. I mean, you know, who doesn't go down with all that?
2nd down and 6, up at the 13. Wilson finds that opening, gets away, then flips it down the sideline. Doug Baldwin had gotten free. What Russell Wilson does so well. Looks like he's going to be trapped. Looks like he's going to be sacked. Starts to move forward, finds the open guy.
Yeah, well, what happens is you have to react to Russell Wilson. So the defender in coverage reacts up, and then Russell Wilson just flips it over the top of him.
Gain of 28 to the 41-yard line. Off the play fake. Fires caught into Seattle territory. Baldwin again tackled by Matthew. First down.
I tell you, this Doug Baldwin is probably the toughest minded guy on this team, and he will not ever let the guys in the wide receiver room complain about not catching enough balls or touchdowns or any of that stuff. He says if we have to block every play, we block every play.
7 catches for Baldwin, 134 yards. Played his college football at Stanford.
Very much the leader of that wide receiver room.
And Wilson, and this time he's able to fire it away. Rodney Gunter almost had the sack. He I think was inside the tackle box, so they will talk about this as he slung it away.
I don't know about that one.
Arians wants it.
Flags out. He did take a step left.
The tackle box is the imaginary line that extends from the tackle's back.
Intentional grounding. Offense number 3. The ball we place at the spot of the foul. It's also loss of down. Brings up 2nd down.
I think Russell Wilson ran around so much he felt like he had to have been out of the tackle box. And there it gets down, he's back in, and he's right on the line, and
the pass winds up in Puyallup.
No wonder Carson Palmer said he feels like he has a hangover every time he plays up here,
boy.
coming out of here.
2nd down and 23. Sound has feel, and it does in this ballpark. Here's Wilson again, a little dump off to Lynch. And Lynch is taken down from behind. He'll spot the ball at the 50-yard line, and it's going to be 3rd down and 16 with the clock running down to 6:40 to go.
Bruce Arians knows full well that his team has to get over this hurdle. I said, is that fair to say that this is one of those hurdles that your team just has to get over if they're ever going to get there? And he said, absolutely.
One of those,
tough spot.
Yeah, one of those hump games. Lynch stays in the block. Wilson then throws, and it should have been intercepted by Ty Matthew. Could not hold on, but it is 4th down and 15.
Couldn't tell if it was tipped by Jimmy Graham or not. There he is, a little out there. Matthew right there. May have been tipped just a bit.
Yeah, you saw Matthew indicate it after he dropped it. And now Ryan is in the punt. Patrick Peterson sets up at the 10-yard line. And Peterson's going to come up and make a fair catch at the 21-yard line. 6:02 left in regulation. Down the stretch we come in Seattle. There you go, score by quarters. Arizona at one point a 19-0 lead. Seattle took the lead. Arizona came back on that last drive, up by 3, have the ball at the 20. Johnson. And he starts with a 7-yard gain in the perfect world, and we'll get to that in a second. Here's Michelle first.
Well, Cards left guard Mike Upati, who was taken to the hospital earlier tonight with a neck injury, has been released from the hospital. He is expected to fly back to Phoenix with the team, Al. Meanwhile, Seattle linebacker Bruce Irvin has been downgraded to out with a knee injury.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Great news, of course, on Upati. Just what we were hoping for. It always looks so insidious, and then you get a report like that, and that's great.
Tight ends in the game, Al. They just want to grind out some first downs here. Larry Fitzgerald will be like a fullback now.
Yep. Johnson. Yeah, in a perfect world, I started to say, in a perfect world, what you have is a situation where you run the ball, you pick up some first downs, you take time off the clock, and you make Seattle use its timeouts on defense.
Yeah, but here come the pass rushers now. By not gaining anything there, now all those speedsters come in the game. And can they block the right guys? Arizona has done a decent job blocking these guys when they figured out who they were. It's when they've made the mistakes on protection that they've had the breakdowns.
John Brown in the game. Floyd out. Fitzgerald is in motion. Play clock at 1. Here comes the pressure. The pass is caught by Jerron Brown right in front of the bench. So this kid who comes in when Floyd went out was so integral a part of the last drive. Big catch here on a 3rd down.
Boy, and a big block right here. This is the one they got hit on before, and this time it's Andre Ellington able to get KJ Wright on the ground and buy enough time for that first down. Nice substitution there on the part of Bruce Arians.
Jerron Brown had caught only 6 passes all year. He's caught 3 now on the last 2 drives. Milking that clock. Play clock at 1 again. Slings it to the outside. Leaping grab, Larry Fitzgerald, and he stays in bounds to keep the clock rolling. 2nd down and 3, gain of 7.
And Larry Fitzgerald now, who had 10 catches for 70 yards in his last 4 games against the Seahawks. Now 10 catches for about 125 or 6, something like that. He has been big, not just catching the football either. It has been his blocks on the edge that has at least given him a chance to run the football.
2nd and 3. Palmer did a masterful job taking that play clock all the way down. Johnson swings to the outside, then back upfield across the 45 to the 46-yard line, and that'll be a 1st down.
It is the same play they've been doing all night. They're going to block here and then set up and make that cut inside, and it doesn't look like much, but it's 3-4 yards And because Cam Chancellor is down inside of Fitzgerald, sets up a decent angle there, forces Kerry Williams to come down and make that tackle, and he's been doing okay with that too.
Seattle takes a timeout. So the Cardinals have taken it from 6 minutes to now under 3, and forcing Seattle into that position to have to use its timeouts. They have 2 plus the 2-minute warning will stop it.
Boy, I tell you, last couple of drives by these Arizona Cardinals, they have shown their toughness. This place was going crazy after those strip fumbles.
And over right guard, gain of a couple there for Chris Johnson. It'll be second down and 8. Carroll looking up at the clock, flips the gum away. Lets it roll down here. 3 tight ends come in. Chris Richard, the Seattle defensive coordinator. Wilson just hoping for a shot to get back out there. Second and 8.
All 3 tight ends left.
Johnson. He gets into Seattle territory. Gang tackled up at the 48-yard line. And it will be 3rd down and 4. And Seattle's going to take another timeout on this side of the 2-minute warning. So clearly a huge 3rd down play coming up.
Yeah, and so much on the line, because you start looking at what happens if Seattle gets beat in this game and goes to 4-5. And as talented as they are and as good a team as they have been over the past couple of years, and 2 Super Bowls and winning 1, 4-5 is a tough spot. And then you start looking at it from Arizona's standpoint, and they've come in and handled the bully, but this is a long way from over here.
And the only good news for Seattle would be they've got San Francisco and Pittsburgh here the next 2 weeks. Then they go on the road at Minnesota, at Baltimore, and come back with Cleveland and St. Louis. Their season would end at Arizona. But right now, first things first on a 3rd down and 4 from the 48. And they run a draw with Ellington, and he's going to get the first down and stay in bounds and go all the way to the end zone for the touchdown. On a 3rd down and 4. Put the pressure on Ellington, the 3rd down back. They swing it to the outside, and a look of disbelief on Pete's face after a 48-yard touchdown run.
What an unbelievable call. And they went against the young guy, Frank Clark, on the outside. Never saw it coming. Goes inside and outside and just takes it right up the boundary. I thought he was just going to fall down there to make sure he stayed in bounds. He did one better than that, didn't he? What a tremendous call by Bruce Arians.
Stayed in, knew he had to stay in, didn't want that clock
Pretty
to
good
stop.
block by Britton Golden down
Golden.
the field too.
Another guy who came into the game with that injury to Floyd. Along the sideline, that's Drew Stanton, the backup quarterback. Letting you know the reaction of that entire Arizona bench, which just erupted.
Wow.
And this crowd, the decibel level has gone from about 115 to 6.
Wow. What a performance against this defense in this building after what happened early in the 4th quarter to put together those 2 drives.
Catanzaro for the extra point, and now we are officially at the 2-minute warning with 1:58. Seattle is down by 10. They have 1 timeout in a 2-possession game. Arizona up on top 39-29. They got things rolling right now as Tyler Lockett will bring it back up the middle. Nice run back out to the 32-yard line for the Kansas State rookie, who got shaken up on the play and is still down on the turf. Take a look at that Arizona schedule coming up. So Cincinnati plays tomorrow night. They could go in 9-0 if they beat Houston. Then Arizona goes to San Francisco and St. Louis, two teams with losing records. Minnesota goes in there for a Thursday night game. They go to Philly, and then they end the season with two home games. They have Green Bay at home and Seattle at home. And then with Seattle, they've got San Francisco and Pittsburgh coming in here over the next 2 weeks at Minnesota, which all of a sudden now leads in the NFC North. They go to Baltimore on a Sunday night. Cleveland and St. Louis come in here. And then the finale in Arizona.
The game is not over. You need 2 scores in either order. Doesn't really matter. You can take a field goal first if you wish.
You know, Lockett, we saw him getting assisted back.
False start. Offense number 68. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
And that's Justin Britt, who cost them 5 before they can even get the first play of this drive off.
I tell you, Al, I have been in games where the momentum completely shifts like that. And when you're on the road and you get a couple of defensive turnovers and this crowd's going crazy and you go back out there on offense, it is very difficult just to hear yourself think. And what they've done in the fourth quarter, going up and down the field twice, is just remarkable.
Well, this, if they hold on to this win, Jermaine Kearse, one of the biggest wins, you want to say in franchise history, because part of the problem is this team was not very good, to put it mildly, until they got to the Super Bowl in '08. And that went on for years and years as Wilson picks up the first down. Remember opening up the Super Bowl that we did years ago with Arizona Pittsburgh? I said to John Madden, I said, you know, what do you think of when you think of the Arizona Cardinals? Because it was shocking that they were in there, as you recall.
Yes.
And he said, I think of futility. But they were the Cardinals who had that magical run, only to see that squashed by a Roethlisberger drive at the end of the game that culminated with a Santonio Holmes catch for a touchdown to win the game. From the 44-yard line, Wilson now. Blitz from the corner, the pass is incomplete. Intended there for Chris Matthews. It'll be second down. Rashad Johnson covering on the play.
Well, and defensively for Arizona, it's going to look like Seattle put up a bunch of points, but in reality, because of those turnovers that put the ball either in the end zone or very close to the end zone, you have to look at the job this defense has done. And I think in particular in that secondary, they are very good across the board. Rod Powers gave up a couple of plays, but other than that, they have been rock solid back there.
Second and 10 with a minute and a half to go. Arizona putting the pressure on, and now Wilson's going to take off and exploit that and get to the 35-yard line. So that's a first down. Clock keeps running. They have one timeout. He wants to spike it here. There's James Betcher, the defensive coordinator. So what you want to do if you're Seattle at this point, you have that one timeout at second down and 10. You have 67 seconds. If you can get within field goal range, you kick the field goal, and then you try the onside kick.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. You're going to have to get an onside kick anyway, so but you have to make the field goal.
So right now you're looking at a 53-yarder. You're not going to attempt that, but if you get to within like a 40-yard attempt or something, maybe you go that way and then go onside. Second and 10. Four-man rush. That's caught. Graham will step out of bounds. That saves a spike or a timeout. Clock stopped with 63 ticks. Now it's third down. And they're going to try the field goal right here. So if he makes it, they're going to have about a minute. And of course, the key will be to recover an onside kick.
Because basically, if you're throwing Hail Marys, throw Hail Marys. It doesn't, you know, all you need is a minute or 45 seconds or whatever. You can throw as many as you want down there.
So now you've got a 46-yard Hauschka attempt, which would make it a 7-point, one-possession game. Ooh, it almost got blocked, but the kick is right down the middle. So you've got 58 seconds remaining, and it all comes down to who recovers this kick.
I don't think Justin Bethel could believe he didn't get it. Right off the edge here. spun his tires just a minute coming out of there. It was close. Boy, he is a superstar special teams player. The Pro Bowl a couple of times now. I'll tell you, after watching that Green Bay game today, the game is never over.
No, just ask the Green Bay Packers here last year.
There's that headache coming again from Carson Palmer. He doesn't even want to think about this one.
Well, last year it was in the NFC Championship game, a recovered onside kick by Seattle against the Packers, which led to the win, which led to the trip to the Super Bowl.
If they had converted those 2-point conversions Seattle had, they would have just needed a touchdown to win that game. Win this one.
If. All right, let's travel 10 yards or be touched by Arizona before Seattle can attempt to recover it. Hauschka sends a high hopper that will be caught by Larry Fitzgerald, and that will seal it. So you put your best hands guys out there. Didn't help Detroit though today. Of all people, Calvin Johnson had one go through his hands, but they did hold on for the victory. And Mr. Bruce Arians and the Arizona Cardinals are going to go to 7-2, shaking Carl Johnson's hands. Tom Moore, the longtime offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, with Peyton Manning there through all of those years. Mark Dolan, one of the top public relations people in the league, and the Cardinals will have a very happy flight back. And of course, we're very happy to tell you that Mike Iupati will be on the plane as well.
Yeah, and
Seattle just takes a timeout here. And let's give you the updated standings as we put this one in the victory column for them Cardinals. 7-2. Seattle goes to 4-5. St. Louis is also 4-5, and St. Louis has already beaten Seattle once this season, so they don't the tie break when you get down to a wild card possibility. San Fran is 3-6 and a bye this week.
Carson Palmer, if he was a part of the conversation for MVP, he is a little bit more now in my book because of what he did. And it wasn't just the drives, it was the circumstances surrounding those drives. It would have been very easy for him to have a meltdown with his offensive line the way that he was getting hit. Instead, he just came out and drove him down the field twice. Tremendous.
And look at that. 6 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, all going down to defeat on one day and night in the National Football League. So Arizona blew a 19-0 lead. The defense led to 2 quick Seattle touchdowns. Then the Cardinals had that tremendous drive, then an unbelievable call on a 3rd down on the last drive, culminating with Ellington's touchdown run.